computer so you can actually get rid of it. I don't know if that's the actual page that it's.
Yeah.
I don't see a chat.
Yeah.
Or a player.
I went into the email, clicked on the link that I granted access, and that's how I got in.
That's the PDF copy. Hello, everyone, as we are beginning to work out the gremlins. So this is an impromptu start before we actually start. We want everybody to come and sit in the chat room. This is the Galactic Goddess, Eleanor Lydia Bay, the CEO of my company, an incredibly beautiful, amazing personality. Eleanor, just give a quick introduction to yourself.
Hello, everyone out there. I'm really, really excited and honored to be here with Andrew to present to you this material. I'm the CEO of Andrew's company, so I'm a professional, I'm a mother of 2 boys, and I'm also a practitioner and have worked with the dragons formally within my own methodologies from 2010. And so it's a very rare opportunity to be able to present for Andrew and I to come together and merge our experience, our practice, and to present to you a whole new perspective and communion and union with the dragons.
All right, everyone. So as we're making sure everyone is able to get into the watch page, let's see if we got this. We can see the watch page to make sure. I mean, this is not the actual start of the webinar for those that are watching. Click on that. Click on that. That allows you to click on that. I should take the watch page and scroll down. And just click play. And just mute that. How many people we got in the chat room so far? Let's give a
Let's see here. We have 53 already in the chat room.
All right, so we're gonna not exactly live yet. Pre-party, everyone. Pre-party. This is what we do to work out the gremlins.
Hi everyone there. Hi Irene. Special hi to Irene Ibidi. Hi everyone out there. We're really, really happy to have you here with us.
Mm-hmm. Andrea, I see you there. Everyone's there.
Sean,
yeah.
Joyce, Aaron.
A lot of people from the first Dragon webinar were there too, from 2014. When Eleanor and I sat down a couple weeks ago and we said we should really do another Dragon webinar, it was one of those moments because we're in crunch time. Eleanor and I are starting another company also called Universal Citizens Media, which is creating a healing system, Universal Citizens Healing System. And that's why I'm in Barbados right now with Eleanor. We're setting up an amazing facility. And we're going to talk about it more as the time comes. But we're going to really get into dragons. So it's the top of the hour. We're going to have a minute before the top of the hour. And then we're going to actually have our intro. We're going to start. And everyone, this replay will be available within about 2 days, if it's a little bit more than that. And then the PDFs are going to come to you the next day. The reason we didn't want to give the PDFs now is we want you to be in-trained with the material, not overlooking at the documents. Also something else, this is a webinar. We are asked to be interactive with the chat room, but also understand there are times that you got to listen. So there's a replay. These words are going to be powerful, powerful, powerful. We have a special dragon invocation, revocation, a new meditation for you. We're going to be answering questions from the chat after the second hour. So everyone sit back, relax, and let's start the show right.
Just to be noted, when Andrew said we wanted to work and do another dragon webinar, it was really the dragons who knocked on our door and gave us little choice, really. And it was very interesting preparing for this, lots of ceremony, working with them, very little sleep because they keep you very high frequency. And we had a plan. And they basically gave us their agenda, read the stream of what they wanted communicated at this time to humanity, what would be most helpful. And so the content that we are presenting is based on what they wish to convey at this time as well.
As multiple time-space existing beings. Everyone get your heads ready to be split down the center as dragon spines come forward. All right, Robert, go ahead and get us ready to start the webinar. This 30 seconds. Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to the Dragons webinar number 3. 4 years later, here we are sitting, having a unique opportunity to get into the realm of the dragons. Everyone that has come to this Dragon webinar, sit back, relax, let's talk dragons. I'm joined by the Galactic Goddess, Eleanor Lydia Bain. She is the new CEO of my company, and I want to take time to introduce Eleanor, the Galactic Goddess, the proper way.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. As I said earlier, I'm super happy and excited and honored to be here with Andrew and with all of you to present the material. I gave a little bit of a bio earlier in stating that I'm CEO of Andrew's company, and we are redeveloping the company to bring all the teachings Andrew has spoken about into an actual healing system that humanity can benefit from. So we've been super busy with that. I'm also a mom. I'm also a practitioner of different disciplines for over 20 years in healing modalities. And I have worked with the dragons formally since 2010. It has been a very humbling, confusing, thrilling, and unique moments.
Thrilling and unique. They are the roller coaster ride. I want to give a special shout out to all the people in the mentorship program that are out there that did some amazing questions for us.
Yes.
So Eleanor, let's get started with
yes.
dragons, dragons, dragons.
Okay. So in preparation, we were wanting to talk about really what dragons are. And I know that you had a previous definition of dragons. So dragons are photonic beings of light, manifested as celestial spawn teachers. The biggest thing to understand when we are working consciously with dragons or other celestial mediums is that dragons are not a singularity in most cases. Most dragons who you will work with are actually one physical body as they may appear to be, but they are a collective of beings, a collective of consciousness that is communicating through that one being.
Dragons are also spawns of a celestial mind. Just as we have lifetime to lifetime, celestial beings such as planet Earth, Mars, so on and so forth, any planet will spawn a dragon as a process to have a mediumship to the celestial being. It is your guide and guardian through all of your infinite fetus births within that planet. It is also your medium to the celestial mind. We all have the ability to speak to source. We also have these dragons that give us direct access to what's called the 1 million letter alphabet, the celestial mind alphabet. In the first series of dragon webinars, we went deep into the brief history and an understanding that everyone has a dragon spirit attached to them as part of your fetus and womb birth. Something I'm very prevalent in my teachings is about going back to your fetus in your mother's womb for specific reconnection to that infinite being. When you are born and your first set of cells are collected, the celestial mind itself spawns an individual aspect of itself called a dragon to be with you once you have gone through the pre-birth and birth process. Once you go through that forgetting, the dragon is there, always in collective waiting and awaitment for you to step forward into high frequency, high density, and the common moral code of do no harm, do not step on the journeys of others. It's not about what you think, it's truly about what you believe in. And all those self-illumination tactics and techniques that are out there that bring you from the transcendent path to the transformation to the transmutation path. Dragons are the great transmuters, instantaneous transmuters of energy. They're also instantaneous alchemizing entities, meaning if there's an energy coming within you, it can instantly be alchemized through their frequency and understood for what it is. Dragons are here to be teachers, way showers, pathfinders, but they're also the great journeyers. There are dragons that are linked to you, and once you get that dragon collective, you have access to infinite dragons from multiple celestial minds who can take you on journeys around the galaxy and the universe. Dragons are superluminal beings. Light means not the same to them. Also, dragons and sovereignty are vastly, vastly different. Mm-hmm. If you are unable to maintain high frequency for long periods of time, dragons will not work with you. If you don't do your own ceremony and clearing rituals, they will not work with you. There will always be the egoic mind that thinks, oh, this is working with me. Dragons have many posers, fake things that can alter their hologram. So when you're working with dragons, you must adhere to your own spiritual hygiene, your own commitment, your own courage, and your own discipline to follow through with making sure you clear your environment before and after you work with them. If not, you aren't truly committed and courageous enough to do the due diligence. Eleanor, you and I have talked about due diligence for such a long time, and it's hard for people to follow through with due diligence. What advice do you have for people with due diligence?
I would say because we live in the times that we live, and there's literally so much to do. Just like anything else, how you approach your spirituality, your practice, is you make a structure and you make a schedule. Just as you would pencil in appointments, or if you want to work out to keep fit, you schedule in your workout time. You must create a schedule for yourself where you can achieve realistic goals or reschedule if something comes up. But you have to have a strategy. You have to create a strategy that is weekly, monthly, cyclically, so that you have a structure you can work with and you don't fall behind.
And then when you have that structure, you get hindsight. You go back to look at that calendar and say, hey, I did all the stuff I promised to do, or I missed 6 of the 10 I was supposed to do. Then you must enforce your own consequences.
Other celestial medium or celestial beings such as angels, who are also not singularities in most cases. Even if an angel appears in front of you, you are dealing with a collective. And in my experience, I think one of the most difficult things in human nature that I've seen within myself, working with clients, and then observationally on a whole, is that one of the hardest things to do is to maintain, through a discipline, keeping the egoic mind not in control. So one of the most difficult things for us as humans is to truly love ourselves and to emanate love, self-love, love and happiness and harmony. Any of those beings basically cannot enter or communicate with us unless we are in a frequency of love and joy. All the lower emotions, the descending emotions of anger, hate, fear, self-doubt, all of those things are what we could describe as acid, is toxic for those beings. So it will literally hurt them or harm them to be in that frequency. So, you know, there's a funny saying, the only way to be happy is to be happy. It takes courage and commitment to hold a frequency of self-love and hold a greater frequency of universal love so that we can move from our 3rd density reality and enter a 5th density reality. Because for the dragons, and this relates to the point of how we communicate, the do's and don'ts, and how we really do communicate with the higher frequency sovereign dragons, because they are love posers. All dragons have sovereignty, and some have broken away to become beings that one would not want to work with. So dragons and all the other celestial mediums come from higher densities. They have to lower their density from a minimum of 7th density down to 5th density. And we're being asked as practitioners to raise our frequency from 3rd density to 5th density so that we have a bridge, a density that we can both coexist in and communicate within. And that takes love and emanations in your physical body, energy body, light bodies of love, joy, and happiness.
Well put. An addendum to joy and happiness and the courage you spoke about is what it really takes to give yourself that permission slip.
Absolutely.
You and I have been talking about this privately. How do you truly teach a person how to give themselves that permission slip? And part of this Dragons webinars, we have a special invocation, revocation, and this is about, again, giving that permission slip. What Eleanor has eloquently spoken to about self-love, you have to create the same speech for yourself. Self-motivation is still here in the practitioner process. If you truly don't understand self-love, most of the times you're going to find yourself with opposing dragon, or what we call pseudo-dragons, things that can change their hologram. If you are intending to truly work with the dragons, you must look at the self. You must understand truly what your heart pains are and be willing to look at them, even if it's for in the moment, to say, I, at this ever-present moment, ban and banish those internal thoughts of self-deprivation, self-unlove, and allow myself to feel it. And that is a magical action, a self-loving magical action. And that is something that is a key to not just spiritual hygiene, but to going forward so you can have companionship and relationships to these dragons. For that is truly what they want. Earlier I spoke about the 1,000,000-letter alphabet. And the dragon show that we did that came out on YouTube a few weeks ago, we talked about it there too. Just ponder for a moment. An alphabet with 1,000,000 letters. Not our 26-letter encoded English alphabet. 1,000,000 letters. Chinese has 280 plus characters. Look how different their language is, hundreds of dialects. Dragons also speak in a light language. Later on in the show, we're going to be doing some light language examples direct from the dragonkind language, and it's going to be very triggery for a lot of you. So we're asking people right now to take a moment and truly acknowledge that self-love is needed here so you can raise your frequency. Part of my job here is to set the bar of high frequency so that the dragons in 7th density can come down. As well as Eleanor's job is to hold the divine feminine space, also so that the feminine dragons, a masculine energy and a feminine energy, can come down for this webinar as a teaching process. The teaching process here for each of you individually is different. Everyone comes to these webinars for different. There's some people that wear dragon t-shirts, some people write dragon poetry, others do artwork. All those things are part of your connections to them. So everyone take 10 seconds here, really go into that self-love thing, because our next aspect that we're going to be getting to on here is really how dragons have been in our history, a brief history, and while they deal with time travelers. We're bringing this up in the beginning of the webinar before we do a meditation, before we bring you high frequency. Understand that they are so multifunctional, multidimensional beings, you cannot perceive with a multitasking mind. So we're going to present these in chunks. And at the top of the hour, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break so people can process. From all my experience doing these webinars, especially with these high frequency ones, we got to give you time to process. We ask that you put your questions in the chat room. We have somebody that's gathering the different questions. We're going to put them all. We'll have roughly 40 minutes near the end of the webinar to take questions. So all right, everyone, give yourself an honest 10 seconds to heart space.
Let's come a little bit closer. Yeah, we just got a message from our technical support that it sounds a little bit muffled, so we're going to come as close as we can, and I'll look into the chat room to make sure all of you can hear us properly.
And there is a little delay, so everyone, if you just put in the chat room, if you're able to hear, just have to turn your players really loud right now. All right, so give yourself that self-love. self-healing, self-nurturing, raising your density, raising your frequency. And at this moment, you say internally, I ban and banish from my reality those things that would lower my density. Things projecting at me now, you have no potency, no power, and no relevance to my greater growth. Say it with potency and power. Great energies, Eleanor, great energies. Over the months of us practicing with the dragon energies finally coming to fruition, the hours of ceremony and ritual and levels of communication that we've gotten has just inspired us. Let's jump right in, Eleanor.
There we go. Okay. So one of the things we were wanting to look at or communicate here is dragons and how they really interacted with us through history. Dragons and history.
So we have to look back to some of my other material for some of the context here, galactic history, okay? As well as the other dragon webinars and the other material that I put out. If you haven't seen that, haven't heard it, but most of you have, the context here to understand is dragons are naturally time travelers. They don't believe in time the way we do. They don't use sovereignty the way we do. They don't birth the same way we do. They look at time as eras of light, tens of thousands of years, and how us as macro beings evolved during those eras of light. And they regularly come to soul families and work with soul families to help evolve aspects of those soul families in eras of light. So the next eras of light, those elders who've now taken up the torch of responsibility to be elders can work with the dragon kind. They see time, perceive time, where were the planets and the star clusters moving through the galactic clock of how dense the era of the galaxy is you're going through. So dragons have been interacting with us since the dawn of Earth mind, when Earth came into this planet and illuminated it with a celestial being. And she began producing her first dragons for the first surface beings. Then we had our first set of time travelers who came here from an ancient future, back to an ancient past, 54 million years ago, and began trading photonic light DNA. Now DNA is 80% memories. So imagine trading memories through time as a commodity. People who live through eras of light, not decades or centuries, eras, tens of thousands of years. So dragons are naturally time travelers. Now as Atlantis and time travel, a series of wars began that created a time travel paradox process. And that time travel paradox process created 4 uncreational events. And what the dragons helped reassemble in a creationary event, because they were storing these DNA memories separate than the clocks and local time bubbles that were being used. So they were able to re-upload the records and the time frequencies. So they helped save the Atlanteans and the Lemurians. I'm often asked, in the ancient times, did the dragons were big and large? Yes, sometimes even larger than planets as a being of energy. But they're shapeshifters and shape size changers. They can be a micro dragon or a massive macro dragon. Volume, shape, and size means nothing to them. They can be shapeless and formless or shaped and formed. As they began working with our history, they began working with those high-density beings who understood that time came in eras of light, as the star cluster was going to different aspects of the galaxy, thicker, denser areas or lighter areas. During the Lemurian times, there were 3 rises and 3 falls. The Atlantean also, 3 rises and falls, representing the different densities of the part of the galaxy that our planet was going through. Dragons assisted at every aspect dealing with the rises and falls, assisting in the birthing process. In the ancient Lemurian times, you were never born into a single body. You were born into 20, 30, or 40, like a litter. Think of you being 20, 30, or 40 twins, each with their own individual life contracts, processes, get bonded like twins. 30 of yourself doing 30 separate missions, and if one died, the others didn't pass on. They were bonded and linked through psychically. Now come to the Atlantean times, instead of having 20 or 30, They were 7 or 8. 1 or 2 in the Atlanteans, or 10 or 12 of the Lemurians, were heavily bonded with the dragon kind of their homeworld, so they can become translators and mediums to other dragon energies on other worlds. The Atlanteans and Lemurian, not only being time travelers, were space travelers who could transverse the galaxy and to other universes, in which they were trading DNA, programmable life forms. Our life bodies, our DNA skin suits, are specialized programmable life forms. Programmable life forms have been around for tens of millions of years, and they will continue to be around for tens of millions of years. There came a time where programmable life forms were used for the creation process of war. And this is where the dragons had to make a split. Some became ultra good, some became ultra bad, some separated from their celestial mind and went off and became explorers. When war was introduced, their high density frequencies had to lower, and in some cases raise, because there were other celestial bodies such as Saturn, who was high 7th density, or Hukna, which is another 8th density planet, which was extremely a badass planet, and all it wanted to do was conquer the whole known of all the universes. And this is where dragonkind began to assemble themselves and work with other DNA programmable skin suits, varieties of them who had super powerful souls within them, so they could become dragon riders. Dragons are in tens of millions of planets' history. Do they all look like the dragons of our history? No. The dragons of our history have been imprinted upon us from our myths on our different aspects. And we have no real books that come from Atlantis and Lemuria. We have only that comes from spirit. And the authentic truth that you may hear from me, from Eleanor, or for any other presenter out there that is giving not only a nugget or a grain, but a stream of truth in which you connect and validate and confirm. So when it comes to the brief history of dragons, they are here to help us be celestial mediums, to understand our race amnesia. They also run the system, both good and bad. Many of them volunteered another era of light ago, knowing full well we would be lowering our density down to who we are now. And they offered their service as part of the era of light for the system, for this was the resolution of karma and the creating of our new dharmic path of celestial mediumship. You've often heard me say that you come to Earth to get your PhD in the School of Hard Knocks, a double PhD. You also get a minor in dragon language and another minor in celestial mediumship. It's the natural process. And that minor study becomes a major study when you become truly awakened as a self-illuminated master, knowing that self-healing and self-nurturing are the vital part of raising your frequency. And that when working with the dragonkind, who are unique to forms of time traveler, they can provide concepts for you that can radically change your entire point of view. With this said, I want you to ask me one of your unique questions when it comes to dragons in history. You know, one of those ones you just pull out of the galactic goddess ethers.
I mean, there's one here that I think we touched on before, and I think it's extremely juicy. So I think most people know from your material a really great figure in history. And we're talking about how dragons can actually now enter DNA lineages. They go person to person to a lineage. It is a special soul contract, and they can very much do so. So you had talked previously about Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee, the living dragon, literally. That was his name. Now,
Genghis Khan, and we wanted to touch on, so that they're past, but if it's okay, living dragon personalities.
There are some sports personalities, which I'm specifically not going to name, and some movie star personalities who are living dragons, though they're not fully living up to their reputation for a multitude of reasons. When Bruce Lee stepped forward in the 70s, he was a completely unpredicted energy frequency that came in and startled everything. There was an entirely racist society against Orientals and Asians here in the United States. And how did he take effect? It was the power of his fist, the power and presence of his energy, and it was a whole new set of teachings here to the Western world that bonded uniquely with them. His stage presence, Now, when you learn about the history of Bruce Lee, Genghis Khan, our archaeological evidence of Genghis Khan says one thing. Our modern history of Bruce Lee says one thing also. There's so much more behind that.
What is the purpose then of dragons coming into a human DNA skin suit through lineages? What is their intention for coming through those human DNA lineages?
Radical change. Radical, unpredictable change that is meant to change the system's perception of what it can or can't do. When Bruce Lee as a spirit decided to come in, he completely confused the system as a fetus in the womb. And as he was born, the system said he'll never succeed, he'll do one movie at most, and it'll only be in Asia. And then something happened. A transformation as he grew. And that transformation allowed him to take on a whole nother set of spiritual contracts that the system never saw, which brought producers, which brought roles, which brought teachers that would have never been there. So unpredictable was this energy that it grabbed hold of the world. And to this day, it still grabs hold of the young children of this world who go, wah, and are doing their karate chops and Jeet Kune Do and listening to every book, every audio and book that he's ever done. Because he is a teacher, way shower, pathfinder for all those, whether he came from the 70s or now, an inspiration for this era of light. For the last era of light has just ended. And we are in our galactic new year. New dragon babies are being born.
Just let them know a little bit about that. It's super exciting. Let our audience know a little bit about the Galactic New Year, this new era that we're in, and how this can help amplify. It can help amplify our practice, but it also has its mantle of responsibility.
So some time ago, our solar system finished its process of going over the galactic central plane. The entire star cluster and solar system have completely passed the line, and that is the significant date of the Galactic New Year. Upon Galactic New Year, everything that was the fence, the quarantine zone, whatever you want to talk, whatever presenter is saying our planet and our solar system are protected by the grid, that is all gone.
This happened in recent times. In other words, this year. This was not an event predated this year.
Okay. Now, I chose not to speak about it for a variety of reasons. I'm choosing to answer this question now because we all have a whole new set of choices ahead of us where we never afforded those choices before. Mm-hmm. What was the old reptilian way has ended. They have been reduced in power by 99%. All that remains is the master elite class manipulating an apparatus of humans who have been in bondage to them for tens of thousands of years. Now that apparatus begins to fall apart as we do unpredictable things, such as this dragon webinar, or whatever else that all the presenters are doing, because the system no longer has the ability to predict us 9, 10, 20 years in the future. It has, if anything, 10 hours of prediction before it can no longer understand what our choices are going to be. Because the fundamentals of the subtle background energy of where our star cluster is has completely moved into a higher density frequency, allowing the celestial mediums and dragons to step forward on the path of way showers and teachers out of the bondage process, out of the servitude without illumination process. That was the old era, where we were source disconnected. And the whole point of going through source disconnected was so we could connect ourselves through love.
This is it, and this is where, in this new galactic new year, in this new era, it's so important to not lower our frequency. In other words, all of the fair porn that this event is coming, and all of the things that keep our frequency low, keep us distracted. We're being asked to come really in another connection with our heart and really stand and let it coagulate in our energy fields. Not love as a mental construct, but love as an actual energy. And we're hoping that for the audience out there, you can really take this into your hearts and know that love is not a throwaway statement. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. There is nothing stronger. And this is the key in working with any celestial medium. We have way more supportive energies than we had previously. Now, before we move on, remember we had said in our intro, you have to look at these notes because we had a plan and the dragons came in and gave what they really wanted to cover for everyone in the audience with this webinar. So one of the things connected to what you were saying previously is the elemental ice sorceresses and the dragons, the earth-based lineage dragons that kept commerce between the 66 planets in the Galactic Ascension machine.
Yes. Now this is a bit of a high frequency concept that you have to understand, that the dragons have kept celestial commerce going. So let's say you have one planet needs teachers, thinkers, mathematicians, and warriors, and another planet that has an excess of those. The dragons would be the guides to exchanging those between astral worlds. There are astral roadways between different planets, and then there are some that don't have astral roadways. And it's the dragon lineages who stay on a surface world, who keep dragons there in a soul family process, and you have soul families in another world that give ancestral grounding on another world that allows these dragons to operate this commodity process of the thinkers, the mathematicians, or the types of lifestyles that they're looking for. Each level of the galactic commodities market still reacts to our sun, it acts to our soul families. And because the dragons are such intense beings who see eras of light, they are constantly creating a strategy to make sure there's a plethora of souls on a long-term scale of growth who might be on the divinity path, or another on the magical path, another on the healing path, another on the karma path. They're there to repeat because they haven't learned something from another world. But they're going to come here to learn something similar of the repetition, because there's subtle aspects in learning from this DNA skin suit, from another DNA skin suit. And all the different aspects that the dragons present is spiritual journey. And this is the most important part to understand when it comes to this commodity process, is dragons love to go to the undiscovered countries of eras of light throughout the galaxies and universes. And they're there to help us take spiritual journeys when we are in physical manifesting form. The aspects of journeying we're going to get to in just a little bit. But when it comes to the consciousness and exploration process, they're here to help teach us what it means to be a consciousness explorer. Eleanor, early on you were exposed to my material some years ago, and the term consciousness explorer came to you. How do you see that as an involvement, now being the CEO of the company, so people can understand truly, as from a divine feminine point of view, what a consciousness explorer means?
What a question. In consciousness exploration, you're dealing with your inner consciousness, and you're dealing with all of what is presented, seen and unseen, in one's environment, on this experience on this planet, in a skin suit. Consciousness exploration, we start to understand, it is not simply, it can start, yes, as reading, as listening to different people's philosophies or experiences. It can then evolve to following particular practices and seeing what that yields for the individual, and where you personally become more empowered and tailor whatever practices are coming to you as unique for your particular consciousness. Now, conscious exploration also is the awareness, the teachings, and the practice around time travel. Now, many people, when they hear time travel, it can bring some quite grand images into one's mind, and it can be that too. But as we teach within our mentorship and different programs, even going back to a memory, a place, a time, an experience, and sending healing or Reiki to yourself in the past or in the future is 100% a form of time travel. Consciousness exploration the absolute key is raising your frequency to your heart and also being willing to be very ardent and watchful of your own belief system. It is ultimately your belief system that creates the ceiling, the box, or the open landscape for your own conscious exploration. One of the things we want to talk about in conscious exploration, even as it relates to dragons, as a feminine, females tend to be more empathic. That is not to say that that is how it is for everyone. So, all those male empaths out there, um, we include you in this content. What we are saying is it is super important when you are working as a conscious explorer to turn down your empathy, because you can deal with beings who have a lot of knowledge and know how to manipulate you, or in unawareness we over empathize with that particular being. Dragons, for example, like we've said and we will continue to say, have different rules and regulations. They come from a different universal law. Dragons, if you don't put up your rules and boundaries energetically and do not over empathize with them as well, they can basically, I've had it happen to me, jump into your body and hide out from the system. And then your life becomes extremely chaotic until you figure out what is going on and how to not over empathize and still remain in your sovereignty as a conscious explorer. No ideology, no person, including ourselves, is greater than your own consciousness and the value for that.
Well put. Another addendum to consciousness exploration is willing choice. At any moment, we can use hindsight, which is another form of time travel, foresight, which is another form of time travel. In many shows, you'll hear me take people back to a moment in which a trauma occurred, and they go back and see that young child going through the trauma and send love to them. That is also time travel. Guided imagery back into an ancient part of yourself when you were 4 or 5, reaching a picture from 7 or 8, as also a form of consciousness exploration and time travel. It is not technological, it's spiritual, a whole different aspect. The Atlanteans and Lemurians understood the difference between spiritual time travel and technological time travel. Technological time travel is what created the majority of the paradoxes that we're dealing with, because people were exposed to technology who weren't ready for the mantle of responsibility to it. Having time travel as your ever-present moment of choice in this DNA skin suit is a massive responsibility, or known as the mantle. As consciousness explorers, you have to take up the mantle of responsibility to yourself. You are always equal to your level of awareness. So when you're working with a dragon, it obviously has a different level of awareness to you, but it will come to your level of awareness and won't step on your journey as long as you maintain your personal mantle of responsibility by not asking a question you're not ready for. You cannot unlearn or unsee certain things. And there's certain pieces of information that can be brought to you that you may not want to hear. The dragon may say to you, you aren't ready.
Totally.
But you hear, I'm ready. As a consciousness explorer, you must be willing not to edit your answers. You must be willing to take them for the authentic truth in the moment. You also must have a discernment factor at such an impeccable personal level that you're willing to do something beyond basic muscle testing, beyond kinesthesiology, to have your inner knowingness with such refined practice that when you're working with a dragon energy, your authentic inner self knows your mantle of responsibility and is going to ask questions and deal with answers and create companionships and friendships that don't step on your physical life and make you a hermit with 19 cats. Too many people who come to me for session, metaphorically, with 19 cats, who believe they're the great dragon masters, and I got to tell them 99% of your dragons are fake, created by yourself because you're a hermit not living with the rest of the world. Now, I know there's people out there going, oh, that's harsh, and oh, that's me, that's somebody I know. We have to help them. Find discernment. Find consciousness exploration once again. That is some of the unique aspects of working with dragons.
And on that note, it was really beautifully put. Extremely important if you're creating a practice in your life, a lifelong practice for working with dragons. Now, on that note, can we expand on the point, Andrew, why it's very relevant to our audience, why dragons are here for this great Dreamtime awakening?
First, the great Dreamtime awakening is us. The fetus in the womb who forgot, who was born and is alive now. Not any of your past or future selves, just us, this lifetime, this galactic new year, this era of light. We're here for the great Dreamtime awakening. And the challenge of that is to not allow our past selves to have more relevance than our current selves. And dragons are here to help us go through the race amnesia process. Because we have whole sections of our race that's been deeply disconnected, our planetary history that's deeply disconnected from us. Histories that have been rewritten by multiple conquerors from multiple different worlds who brought their belief systems here who are not natural to this world. Dragons are here to help us separate what are the good process, what are the bad process, what is in race amnesia we need to know now, tomorrow, next week, next year, next month, and at the end of the awakening process. Not everyone is for the great Dreamtime awakening because it requires the process of the separation of densities. Now, I've spoken about this frequently. It is where you go through the unique process of going, this friend is remaining low density and is never going to change. They're going to be alcoholic the rest of their life. How can I, as a spiritually advanced being, continue to allow them to exchange energy with me on the unseen level and me go out and party my ass off, this, that? You can't. If you want to maintain high frequency, you must learn sacred recreation versus recreation for recreation's sake.
A big one there, a big one for our audience out there. I'm still working with this concept, with this practice in a really big way. And it's ultimately comes down to impulse control.
Beautiful.
So we have the parasympathetic, sympathetic that run false programs from trauma, pain, whatever's damaged our heart, our minds, our own distortions.
You speak up a little bit.
And our own distortions. So what we're wanting is for each of you out there to start to be aware when you get an impulse, start a practice. Some people, it can be with food, it can be with a variety of things, that we start to practice impulse control. This, as a conscious explorer, gives us skill sets in the unseen world that we do not immediately be drawn or repelled by something. We have a process with it, and we control our impulses.
So why are they here for the great Dreamtime awakening? To help you go through the separation of densities. We got a message that the audio is a little bit. When the replay comes, the audio will be boosted. Right now, we're just going to continue our projection here. Some people are having some internet troubles that's not coming from our side. The internet is acting extremely funny today. And also, these are high-density broadcasts. And if you truly do some more spiritual hygiene, it will clear up. We see it in the chat room over and over and over again.
Yeah, be assured, the webinar, when you receive it in the future, the audio aspects will be cleared up.
Will be cleared up. It is just the live broadcast right now.
Yeah.
So it'll be available within roughly 2 days after the webinar, and then the then the PDF documents will come with that.
Yes, and the meditations.
And the meditations. So everyone, the great Dreamtime awakening. It is what is in our context of what 2012 should have been. People that have been listening to me know nothing is happening tomorrow, the next day, or the next day until you make it happen. That is also a significant aspect of the great Dreamtime awakening. You make it happen by becoming the living lucid dream who can manifest at will not only abundance, but joy, happiness, and all those other things that drive forward your hologram of personal choice to evolve yourself beyond your old story, to make irrelevant those of low density of having any relevancy in your greater growth. The great Dreamtime awakening is a gift for us this lifetime. All those assholes from the past selves who are constantly trying to be their unsovereign selves have no relevance here. We have all had a version of ourselves thousands or millions of years ago who's a badass negative being who goes, you're in the great Dreamtime awakening? I'm coming for you. I'm going to take you over. I'm going to make you a drinker. I'm going to make you a drug person. I'm going to put you down this path, that path, throw this woman at you, this, whatever, until you say no to repetition without illumination. And that includes interpersonal relationships. That is the hardest aspect. So many people who come to the shows, you hear they're in a relationship, 10, 20 years, one's super spiritual and the other isn't. Okay, that aspect right there is the key to the Great Dreamtime Awakening. If you find yourself in a relationship with a person who doesn't give a rat's ass about your spirituality, you have to ask yourself, do they truly respect me and my things that aren't just hobbies? As a woman, Eleanor, you've had your set of relationships. What can you relate to people that are in the divine feminine or in the divine masculine that really need to know about changing their inner relationships?
Well, it's a great question. And first of all, it can relate to a number of aspects here. So the first thing is we go back to doing the inner work on oneself. So we have that frequency of self-love and sacredness and honor. With whatever activity, you could be making a sandwich, but the energy you're putting into it, the love, the awareness, the presence, the sacredness, is the same way that we are being asked to live our lives at this point in time. Now, when you have a relationship with someone who does not have any spiritual belief system, or mocks a spiritual belief system, or let's just say, additionally, may attempt to distort or get in the way of your spiritual practice, make it difficult for you, it is really a situation that ultimately is going to cause you a lot of pain and frustration, and also slow down your progress tremendously. Because if we're taking it from the aspect simply of the Great Dreamtime Awakening, who do you share your bed with? When you dream, the people who are close to you dream with you and do influence your dream world. And this is one of the things I was going to make a point of earlier. Having the discipline to do practice such as dream world clearings, or have your own invocation. So when you are going in your dream time, you can ask to meet with your guides, guardians, with your dragon guide, the dragon spirit, so that you can clear anything that is attempting to stop that interaction, and that you can communicate and have dreams you can remember and build those foundations that then bleed over into this reality, build those bridges. So the other aspect to being in a long-term or an intimate relationship with someone who has I dislike the term, but no spirituality, or no belief system or respect for spiritual practices and the value in it, is that ultimately one has to look in yourself of what is funding the behavior for you as a divine, multidimensional photonic being of light, in this amazing experience in this skin suit. Is it providing you with joy, motivation, equal co-creation, encouragement? If it is, that's fine. In most cases, it's not. The last question, or the last aspect I would like to illuminate here, is that ultimately we have to look at the aspects of ourselves that are still in martyrdom, sacrifice, and subtle self-torture, or seeking approval from that type of figure in our lives that usually relates to our parents. As basic as that is, we're seeking a personality who is reflective of where we do not seek approval from a very important figure, whether it's our parents, guardians, teacher, somebody we were in love with at 10, who put us down for who we are. We're still unconsciously seeking that approval. And guess what? We don't need anybody's approval. We need no one's approval.
And that is what the dragons are going to ask you if you want to work. If you find yourself in that relationship that we just defined, where they're not truly respecting your goals and greater spiritual beliefs, the dragon's going to ask you, why should I work with you? Are you going to draw out their negative frequency when you sleep? Or the dragon may have very limited, here's the cookie. Here's the cookie. I believe in you. The dragon's saying, I believe in you. We've got all these spiritual contracts to work in. Well, what's the top 5 things you got to work on first? Let's say you're in that relationship you just can't leave for financial reasons, whatever it is. What's the second thing the dragon's going to say? Let's say you have a child that requires all forms of attention, or you have a job, you have these other things. Are you going to begin to carve out those other 4 subjects, those top 5? If you're not regularly working on your top 5 things, the dragons are ultimately going to go, you don't have the commitment and courage. They will constantly be giving you these little cookies to be on that path. Now, this doesn't mean to immediately radically change your life. It's about introspection, retrospection, and reflection, and then the legacy of hindsight. You make change slowly. You make change with strategy. You make change with love and parts a part of you. There are many people that find themselves stuck in those relationships because they find themselves settled. And there was such a time of chaos before they had someone to share that bed with, even if they're not even intimate after 20 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. They cannot be alone. Mm-hmm. And that is something dragons don't like. You are never alone. If you truly have an abandonment issue and think you're working with dragons, you're not. And right now, there's somebody somewhere going, I work with dragons. I have abandonment issues. You're lying to yourself. You have a poser dragon, one of the infinite amount of things that will get in there and use that abandonment issue against you. This is why we bring this up now. Why the dragons are here for the Great Dreamtime Awakening is to be teachers, pathfinders, way showers, and help you on spiritual journeys. They're also here to say, if you don't have the concept of what commitment is or courage, I can't ultimately work with you at the 7th density level, because you can't raise yourself enough, long enough to have those energies help change some of the choice points within yourself. What is a choice point? A long time ago, I said, this is the person I'm with, and I don't have the strength to leave.
Or you may have just personally evolved so much in a different direction. This is not about judgment or labeling. You may have evolved, and that other person has chosen, which is their sovereign right, to stay in that frequency, that belief system. But if you really want to experience a long-term, a long-lasting relationship with dragons, it is extremely important that you stand in your own empowered frequency to work with them. And this leads us on to a really, it kind of ties in with this, Andrew, a really important topic, which is dragons and sexuality.
We only have a couple minutes before the top of the hour and we go and take a break.
So we'll touch on that after
We'll touch on that after, so we can get some juicy stuff. I want to go back to the Dreamtime Awakening, because 2012 set off a firestorm of nothing happening, and a variety of presenters saying it's happening tomorrow, it's happening tomorrow, it's happening next month. I don't need to name names. You all know them. You all go through your feeds or whatever, your social media feeds, and say, this guy, it's this month, this guy, it's that month, it's the flash, it's the moon, it's this, it's the earthquakes, it's the supernovas. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. And I've been saying that since December 21st, 2012, in which I did a 22-station marathon that was titled, Nothing is Happening Tomorrow. Tens of thousands of listeners. Here we are, 2018. Nothing has happened. There are those people saying, well, it is happening. No, a global narrative is still controlling you.
Controlling your belief system.
And dragons are here to teach you about your belief system. It'll sit in the background and keep kicking sand into your face before it teaches anything to you, until you look at your belief system with internal dialogue. And then learn how to take internal dialogue and manifest it to external dialogue. This is contract revocation, invocation, the out loud name it to claim it system. Are the dragons asking you to use the out loud name it to claim it system? Absolutely. You're claiming your power back from a system that is in your field right now that says, I own you. Until you say, no, you don't own me in any dimension, time, stream, galaxy, and universe, and have the commitment and courage internally to say, not today, not tomorrow, not the next day or the next day. Will you plan anything for me? Anything at all? I am the divine manifester in my will. And those beings I choose to love and interact with are my spiritual contract, both karmic repetition, dharmic illumination. There are times karmic repetition immediately becomes dharmic illumination, when we suddenly go, I I've had it with XX or X that's saying it's going to happen tomorrow, and you take it out of your feed. And then once it's out of your feed and you're not watching XX or X, even if it's one paragraph every 2 days, okay, allowing those things to not have relevance to your greater growth. That's the other aspect of the Great Dream Time Awakening. Learning what you have to make relevance to your greater growth. Many people out there are, what do we call it? Researchers. Researchers are not practitioners at all. Yeah, in 6 minutes we're done. Or 40 minutes. 4 minutes now. That's our producer sending us our message. We got the break coming up. So a researcher is not a practitioner. And Eleanor, you and I have had this debate back and forth because we get these emails. I've researched this for 9 years. I've done this. And yet they have not even a clue of what a prayer is. Or don't even have any aspect of what a prayer could be for them. Prayer needs no system. It doesn't even need words. It doesn't need a dogma or an esoteric process. It is you relating to your own source. If you truly have no relation to your own source, how could you truly expect to have a relation to a ship, to a dragon? Expectations create limitations. And if your limitation is, I have no interconnectedness, I have no source, I have no prayers.
This is the point. You must come in to your research or a conscious explorer, researching any material, video, audio, written, listening to friends and family. We must set off on that journey with the awareness that we are divine beings. No one is greater or more less than us. We must come on that equal co-creation term to the material so that we are bringing our sacredness and our empowered divinity to the content. So we're not coming as lowly creatures, sort of grasping. It's already there, and that's a big part of the belief system, breaking that it's all outside of us. It has to start with that magnet within, and that magnet is our own awareness and honoring an emanation of our own divinity.
And something else, authentic enthusiasm. Many researchers have lost that completely. They just repost, reshare, or they watch one video on one subject and think they have a master's degree in it. I cannot tell you how many times I've encountered people that watch 2 YouTube videos and think they have a PhD in that subject, when in fact you don't. Think about how many people you know in your own personal social media circle that are that. And you must, some of you here, I guarantee there'll be somebody here who thinks they got a PhD in dragons from this webinar. No, you've just begun to scratch the surface. We could do 9,000 hours and barely get to 1% of what's about dragons. That's how vast of beings they are. They use a 1,000,000-letter alphabet. They use a 26-letter alphabet. And there is no place in our world, no physical apparatus or structure you go to add a 27th letter. That's how limited our world is. Now, when we seek the unlimited point of view, which is no longer arguing for our limitations, no longer being a researcher, but being a practitioner of our personal consciousness exploration, then our research helps us explore our consciousness through hindsight, foresight, introspection, retrospection, and reflection. Those 5 adjectives, those 5 descriptive words of action of the self are the key to working with a dragon. If you don't have those basic things, guess what? They're just going to keep kicking sand in your face until you do.
And that part of that introspection, reflection time is really writing out your intentions. Writing out, dragons love raw creationalists. You actually alchemizing and manifesting that connection by journaling your experience, your intentions, and creating structures for it. You'd be very surprised if you sovereignly engage a dragon and start writing what may come through you.
I'll say this, I've said many times, if you're not journaling your process, you're faking it. Literally, if you are not chronicling and journaling what's going on in your explorations, you are faking this. There's no true commitment or courage.
You actually manifest it in will, in writing, into this reality. It's there for a reason. Just like we speak out loud, writing brings it into a different level of manifestation. So does artwork, so
And
does music, so does all of that.
Let's go to our break now. It's the top of the hour. So, Robert, take us away to our break energies as we begin to get you ready for when we come back. Dragons and sexuality.
Hi. Hi, Andrew. It's Moji. How are you?
How you doing today?
Good, good. You and I actually spoke about a month and a half ago. I don't know if you remember me or not, but that's okay. I don't expect you
I
to.
do. You were the bodyguard girl.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Again, I want to say thank you. Thank you for everything that you're doing for us. So, Andrew, I have a question for you. The previous caller asked a question about the timeline, and it was really interesting because that was one of the questions that I had. And what I wanted to ask you about the dragon family. How are they involved, and what is going on with them?
Really good question, and I don't frequently answer dragon family questions, but I will now because I'm allowed a different latitude. Okay, the dragon families represent dragon elementals. That means that are thousands of DNA lineages where there are both men and women that allow dragons to come and live in their body temporarily and or permanently in a walk-in, walk-out basis. So the dragon families present a DNA lineage that allows elemental dragons to come and experience what it is to be a human, so that when they leave the human experience, that their dragon work, whatever you want to call it, represents something that the 3D humans can begin to experience. The dragons are the ones that seeded the golds in the mountains because it was their job when the system of domination and control was taking over, and there was an agreement that it needed to be done, and that gold would be the great change of human belief system. And then the dragons began to rescind a lot of that power, and the system of domination and control was able to put them in contractual obligations that was negative to them. So many of the dragon concepts began to dematerialize from Earth and go into other realms, which was what the system wanted. And there were other realms that began to see these dragons leave Earth and sent their dragons here, their elemental sources here, which were dreaming entities from other worlds that began to manifest other concepts like the Oriental dragon myths or the Western dragon myths. And then there was this free importation of dragons from different areas. And this is where the dragon families have been growing through the different martial arts styles or tattooing styles or cultural habits that bring specific families of dragons in and allow them to live in human bodies and be hidden so that they can properly understand the earth, and as well as communicate to other elemental dragon sources so that they can begin altering the system of domination and control, because ultimately that's what the dragon force is here to do, is to dematerialize, de-energize, unfund the system, and then begin to alter the fundamentals of the system so it can be a positive force for good. And then you have the dragon families that aren't so good. Well, that's part of the light and dark path that we're on. There are neutral dragon families and fourth and fifth option dragon families living here on Earth, but they're not consciously a part of this movement of reapplication of sacred heart space. They're waiting for the people to stand up and show that instead of being the leaders. So it's the negative dragons and the positive dragons that are constantly in war, physical war, spiritual war, etheric war, psychic war, trying to make sure that the different cultures are protected, the different concepts are protected. Dragons are also great record keepers, as well as teachers and historians, as well as magicians and hierophants. But they're different. They're not human. They're dragon. They're an elemental force.
Right.
They're a universal elemental force, and sometimes they're very confused, and other times they're so wise and confused that they could really harm people with some of their wisdom. So dragons must be understood. Specific for the dragon families, when we understand a bit of the history about the dragon, we realize there's thousands of different dragon families. Some of them are very wealthy and are trying to play with the SWIFT system or the sovereignty system, or they're trying to get individual people to step up and take gold deposits to start their own gold-backed deposited banks at a governmental level that sheds off the corporation, when in fact the corporation energy is just another twisted version of a dragon, a very ancient dragon who's been put into the servitude of the system of domination and control. So again, it's the dragon families to allow these dragons to come out of the system of domination and control and invest in the human body, go through healing so they can get a new perspective, and then once again change the systems from within. That's saying as long as there's reality programmers out there working with them, because that's what the dragons need. And we are all reality programmers. We just must determine the level of investment in which we do to change this reality.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the second hour of the Dragons webinar. We're here to talk dragons and sexuality. Part of that process requires the divine masculine and the divine feminine in their own sacred ceremonial space, such as Eleanor and I, each on our individual processes going forward in a corporate process to present information to you. Now, there are a variety of things out there, such as Tantra and all these other practices. We're talking about dragons and sexuality. Now, the first understanding is you have to understand dragons and sexuality are asked to go beyond your normal sexual experiences and the structures of our normal sexual organs. We must remove ourselves from our human DNA skin suit as our reference point to gain a whole new perspective and awareness. This is the path to understanding dragons and their sexual expression. First aspect is dragons do not have a single sexual organ and can be both masculine and feminine simultaneously. For every chakra point that they have a penis or a vagina. Just contemplate that for a second. As multidimensional, multifunctional photonic beings of light, they could have their root chakra illuminated deeply red that have its own phallus and vagina in it. Now imagine two dragons coming together, both being masculine and feminine simultaneously. Uniquely different sexual experience, isn't it? So what we're going to talk about here for our sexuality in this conversation is for those that are understanding the basic spiritual hygiene, the advanced spiritual hygiene, commitment, courage, all that stuff we talked about in the first hour, time travel,
breaking of belief systems,
breaking of those beliefs.
What is wrong or what is right, what we have been programmed with within our sexuality. Because when we talk about dragons and sexuality, we are relating sexuality as not only the creational aspect, not only the recreational aspect, not only the potentiality as form to express unconditional love, joy, and ecstasy, but we are really, really talking about a bridge to higher consciousness.
Now, there are a lot of existing techniques out there that take the sexual experience and transmute its energy. In Tantra, Mantak Chia, if you're familiar with that. And that's taking that sexual energy and transmuting it instantly into inspiration, joy, happiness, and a variety of other subject matters that drive forward your hologram. So if you're going to use dragons in your sexual experience, generally through masturbation, or if you have a bonded partner, you must come at it as sacred recreation. It is no longer recreational sports sex or to have the feel-good moment. It has a unique strategy of transmutation behind it. Now, a dragon, it can come to you and bring you an intense sexual energy you don't know what to do with. And a lot of the dragon lineages that are living use this energy in a negative purpose. In the clip you guys heard me talking about dragon lineages. Right now, around 17% of our population has full dragon DNA in it. And the rest have little bits of dragon DNA, which make you a signature frequency match for a dragon or a poser dragon. Pseudo-type dragons that are not celestial mediums, things that have been lowered their density over long periods of time and have lost that way. Now, a dragon in our myth right now is very reptile-like. They have spines like a stegosaurus that come out, wings that come out. There's the Asian dragons that don't have arms and legs. They're just flying serpents through the air. Now, using that as guided imagery, knowing that they have multiple sexual organs simultaneous to each, how would one begin to use that? Well, we'll just use this as the self-pleasure process, masturbation. Both male and female can do this. Your first intention is to declare to your out loud environment that this is a sacred sexual act, and that your cultural taboos from mom and dad and that have been imprinted on you no longer apply here. This is the toughest part of transmuting what was your old sexual experience to what can be a new sacred recreational sexual experience that is designed to advance your consciousness exploration so you can learn a form of instant alchemization, instant energy transmutation within you, so that the natural trust in yourself to go through that raising of your frequency through masturbation or sex act with your partner, so that you can reach that orgasmic state. And as soon as that orgasmic state comes in, you have the commitment and the courage to bring in the guided meditation side that illuminates your auric frequency with a dragon imagery. For what purpose? Transmutation. So let's talk about transmuting our sexual energy. As a woman in business, you have a lot of projections that come at you, and you have to push them off this way or do your inner martial arts that way. And this form of inner martial arts is vastly different.
It is. What aspect do you want to talk about transmutation and sexuality?
The in the moment transmutation of what it takes to go from that high peak old experience to being the practitioner who's saying, I don't need to break my joy frequency just because I'm bringing in a more serious subject.
Mm-hmm. It is to have the awareness, first of all, the belief system that it is possible. The second thing is that dragons thrive on sexual energy. They absolutely, absolutely thrive. And it is not disrespectful to invoke them before sexuality as equal co-creators, because the higher frequencies of ecstasy and bliss you reach, the thinner the veils become, and the easier it is to actually have that sacred time, that communication with your dragon guidance spirit. Transmutation and transformation within that sexual act means a lot of patience. It's not an instant gratification process.
Whereas an orgasm is at the end.
Yes.
You just accept it.
It's raising a frequency. It's raising a frequency up from the sexual center, the dantian, and you raise it up to the heart, and you allow it to come out the crown. There in the crown, you keep flowing that sexual energy of release, and the goal is ultimately to break the belief system that you need to have or can only have an orgasm in your localized organs. So in your sexual organs, it can actually be that it can be a full body experience. It can go even deeper, that you actually feel it going into your whole aura. So you have the sense of the orgasm flowing from your sexual organs to your physical body, to all layers of your etheric body and your aura.
And we can allow that into a frequency without even touch.
Yes.
When one becomes a master at setting up the sacred recreational to become sacred transmutation.
Yes, and that is one thing you had touched on in a former show with sexuality. A really powerful and potent practice is to, if you're trying to stimulate yourself or you're trying to stimulate each other in a partnership, to actually sit and have the discipline to meditate with sexual energy first. Just allow yourself to flow the sexual energy intentionally up the spinal column, through the heart, up through the crown chakra, and start to activate those energies there. Get into a high heart-based frequency, and to remember to remove the disconnect. There's oftentimes, because of deep belief systems of guilt, etc., or what pornography has done, which has created a lot of charge and polarity around sexuality, we must create the imagery and create the structure that we are connecting our sexual energies into our heart energies, and there is no more disconnection, or it's like as if we had been dismembered previously energetically. The dragons are asking us to remove all of those notions and embrace our sexuality wholeheartedly. We're not saying here be unsovereign. We're saying to take this practice with the highest sacredness, highest joy, highest level of expression, because it is a tool, another added tool, and how we can invoke them, communicate with them, and it also brings them great joy. It is not that they are voyeurs. It is that they thrive on sexual energy outside of the context of a strictly human pleasure experience.
Or procreation.
Or procreational process.
So sexuality is your birthright and legacy. And it is our current global narrative and cultural taboos that have such negative imprints and frequencies. That's why we decided to make this as part of the subject matter for this. We're not here to say, go and dry hump a dragon or have a dragon come and dry hump you. I use those terms colloquial fun because in a lot of situations where you're going to try to start this, it's technically you dry humping the dragon. Yes. Like a little doggy coming up and going on somebody's legs. If you're not sacred, if you're not in the high frequency, the dragon's just going to go, what are you doing to me? Hey, stop. Now, if you have a partner, this is where your out loud voice can not only be a sensual voice, but sexual activation voice through guided imagery. Dragons have wings. Humans have energetic wings too. So you can say to your partner, allow yourself to come deeper into the dragon frequency. I now create the wings through my voice. Can you co-create this imagery with me? See the wings unfold from under your spinal column and come out your shoulder blades and stretch wide and far as you do your dragon initial yoga to get that energy flowing. My sacred bonded partner, you're gorgeous with the beauty that's coming and radiant energy that's coming forward with you. Simple example. How you choose to use your verbal romance versus your guided imagery in conjunction with that. Now, Tantra teaches this, variety of practices teach this. We're iterating for this who are people who want to be consciousness explorers, who want to raise their frequency during the great Dreamtime Awaken to become spiritual journeyers. If you are having, let's just say, this relationship with a dragon, are you dating them? No, you're not. They're a collective of teachers trying to help you raise your frequency, your birthright of sexuality, so you don't become in love with them like a partner. A lot of people make this mistake.
Yes.
And that's the other reason.
They become infatuated.
Yes, that's the other reason we decided to use this as part of our dragon webinar is they become so infatuated with them, they lose the human contact, the human touch. Now, a lot of people in this webinar don't have a partner, and that's okay. So you really have to observe your own self-pleasuring process and say, this is my sovereign stuff, this is my unsovereign stuff. Make the basic separation of densities. So that if you're a regular porn watcher, if you want to engage with dragons, you got to cut it cold turkey. And you got to see over the weeks and months to come how your body's going, I want that video, I want this type, I want that. And go, no, I have impulse control. Because when you reach that peak and you're intending to transmute and you allow another impulse in, that happens to be a negative image from another video that puts you down another path, you can actually do harm to that dragon. Now, no one wants to do harm out there, but an innocent, unsuspecting immersion from our subconscious, so parasympathetic is trying to self-defeat and limit us, and we allowed it during our high frequency. I mean, there's a program inside you that says, no, you aren't going to maintain this, and I'm going to insert something during your raising a frequency that's going to do what? Take you out of it and fake it. True release, you fail through your body. Now, when it comes to men, there's a very different masturbation, self-pleasuring process there. Men are just as much visual as women, but their sensory process through their phallus is very different. So it requires the ability of self-touching the other parts of the body. The insides of the thighs, the backs of your ears, the forehead, going on the scalp, stimulating the body to get out of non-stimulation process. Many people that have no feeling, they haven't been with a partner in a while. And if you're intending to get with this dragon and sexuality as a concept to reach your consciousness frequency, you got to make sure you're not going to fall in love with that imagery like a porn video. So many people that have come to me private sessions, they fall in love with a porn star who are never going to meet them, but that's their fantasy life, 6, 7, 8 years. You can't live that way with a dragon either. It will ultimately bring in a negative frequency that isn't a dragon. So you have to be men and women to look at your sexual patterns and how things suddenly come up that take the orgasm away. A lot of women experience this who've never had an orgasm 40, 50 years of the 70 years of their life because there was always some parasympathetic program, cultural taboo, that stopped them from reaching that next level. Now, something that is innate to human women is what's known as squirting. Now, many, many women know what it is, but have never, they had an orgasm, but have never experienced that. It is the apex of the DNA experience if you as a woman are able to have a partner that is able to make you squirt on a cyclical and regular basis in which you are doing transmuting process. For there is where the true high sexual magic energy comes, where the out loud name it to claim it system can amplify that squirting process that can go 20, 30, 40, 50 times. Now, I'm bringing some of these subjects up with a little bit of raunchy in one way, but we have to breach this gap, bridge this gap for talking about sexuality, guided imagery, high frequency energy beings who know that sexuality is your legacy and birthright. And when you begin to change your relationship with it without altering all of your other relationships with sexuality, you will be in the great Dreamtime Awakening, sexual awakening process within it also.
Yeah, it's taking all the shame, blame, and guilt, really cleansing ourselves of whatever was externally created or self-created. The other aspect here, when we talk about practicalities, So a really good technique that I have used and has yielded very good results is the visualization, because it is a real technology you're working with, of moving the awareness, so your third eye can travel anywhere. It's not just located there. Moving the image and the awareness of the third eye for a woman onto her clitoris, and then for a man to move the image of the third eye to the head of his penis. When two people are doing that consciously aware, but being multidimensional and holding that image, and that intention, that flow of energy, working with the cranial sacral pulse, feeling the heartbeat, getting that pulse going, is going to allow much higher frequencies to come in and a much more elevated experience.
Wonderful. 1 second, let me grab a power cord before something changes. Right.
I wonder, I'm even tempted, Andrew, to see if there are any questions there on sexuality.
Sure, let's take a couple questions right there.
Send through some questions on sexuality, dragons and sexuality, to our audience out there.
See if you can see some in the chat room real quick.
Yeah, there's a little bit of delay, as we know. But we're waiting. So, this is a good one. So this is from Overkill. So I'm by myself and have no porn. Good start. How am I turned on? Just give Andrew a moment. He's just getting some technical aspects sorted here.
It doesn't have a frequency.
This one behind you. This one behind you.
Reach.
We'll make it work. All right. So Andrew, let's get back to this question. It's a great question. So I'm by myself and I have no porn. How am I turned on?
Very carefully. First thing first, he goes, I'm choosing to make this a sacred turning on process. Do I have the commitment and courage to say, over the next 90 minutes, any programs that come in, any thoughts that come in, do I have that commitment and courage to say no to them and then continue the process of raising it and not fall back to those other imageries?
Your orgasm is your birthright.
And legacy to all your future selves too. So here's a tip, tool, technique. Before you have the masturbation process, before you're there, send an energetic treatment forward in time to yourself as a conscious explorer, time traveler. And I'll just flow with this right here. There's no script or nothing. 99% of this is no script. We just got bullet points here. So I, in this ever-present moment, who know a future me is going to be going through a sacred recreational sexual act for myself as part of my great dream time awakening. I, as this being of the past, choose to acknowledge there are programs inside me that would take me off that journey. I now project to myself in the future a turning off of the sympathetic and parasympathetic programs of self-defeat, self-deprecation, and all the other self-defeating habit patterns that take us away from having that greater release. And you'd make that a guided meditation where you see your crown chakra, bring that in, your third eye, all of your energy centers, bringing in that potentiality of the past being in a sacred moment, who knowing full well that the future you is going to be going through an even more sacred moment. You could do this 20 times, 10 days ahead of time. So you're building up your energy. So there's multiple versions of yourself enforcing your rules, borders, policies, and procedures on what gets in and out of frequency internally and externally. Now, the next process is, what does it really take to turn you on? You aren't looking at an image of a dragon. You aren't bringing an image of a woman. Most fantasy processes for men or women involve imagery of the body, the DNA skin suit. Now it's energy. What does it take for you to take away the imagery that is just light in your mind and allow it to just be light? That is bridging the gap of doing it alone. Do we really need a fantasy to get off? No, we need energy. It is ultimately the energy of masturbation that does what? Creates the release. Oftentimes men and women limit their release where they only release 10, 12% of their energy up, and 10 years later, that's what they think is normal for sexuality. It isn't. Both men and women can get off multiple times in an hour. Women can do it a lot more because of the nature of their sexual organs, but it's perfectly possible for a man to have 4 or 5 orgasms in an hour, hour and a half, no matter what health level you're at. Obviously, blood pressure plays a big aspect in that because males have to fill the phallus with blood. Here's where men who are having a little sexual dysfunction process because the masturbation has taken away some of their sensitivity and they don't have a female partner to regularly use for it, it is to do the advanced heart meditation and add aspects into the blood that allow the phallus to be filled with sensitivity, that the blood cells are taking away the desensitized process of thousands of fantasies that took away from the sensual touch you could have to yourself, making it a truly healing, natural sexual masturbation process. Whole new different windows and of avenues of exploration are open for you there that aren't going to have you randomly fall in love with a fantasy or find yourself with an astral being having astral sex but never actually engaging it in the physical side and having a full release. Because most times with astral sex, it's an entity feeding off you. Not all the time, but most of the time. Mm. Now, another aspect of that question is, how do you turn yourself on? That is a hard question to answer. It truly takes focus. Focus, focus, focus. Anyone that's ever masturbated, if there's a knock on the door, your focus is broken. There are others whose focus is so superior, a kid could walk in and walk out and they can still finish. It still comes down to focus. That's the key. What do you have to add for that, Eleanor? Maybe for the women out there.
I think you pretty much covered it. I mean, it doesn't really relate to that particular question, but turning yourself on, again, comes down to being willing to open and be playful, very playful with the energies, have proper internal dialogues that override whatever negative programs that are disallowing you to have the orgasm. And that's what I have to say on that. Now, there are 2 questions here. I'm going to merge them into one because I think they're very important.
Okay.
So the first one is that does the orgasm have a healing effect on the body? And this was from guest 4704. The other question I'm going to tie into that is, do orgasms before sleep affect in a negative way reconnect with
dreaming
body and a full recall of astral travels? And that's from Merstone.
All right, so what's the first question?
Does a full orgasm have healing effects on the body?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tremendous healing effects. It actually triggers a medical science term called angiogenesis. You can go look that up. It means you naturally produce stem cells in a natural high frequency. Stem cells. Everyone outside, there's the slightest bit of research in this modern world. Stem cells are the way we do all the greatest of healing.
It's actually the orgasm allows rapid healing and rapid youth regeneration.
As well as a massive dopamine release.
Yes.
And that dopamine release is the key to riding the post-orgasm to make it superior healing. There are a lot of people right post-orgasm, especially women who don't fully experience the orgasm, 6 minutes after they're asleep or 2 minutes into it, that's all they feel. Mm-hmm. It should last for days.
It's also important, after you have the orgasm, to not distract yourself straight away, to really close your eyes and to keep consciously moving and expanding that energy. Start to make, practice makes perfect. Mm-hmm. Start to expand the energy. and allow yourself like a wave of healing, of bliss, of empowerment to go through the physical body and to the energy bodies in the aura.
Yeah. With modern technology, it's easy for you to record your own voice, which we recommend to everyone to record your own voice. Here's an example. You find yourself at that orgasm just before sleep. And what was the nature of the second question?
It ties in, it's so important. It's do orgasms before sleep affect in a negative way the connection with the dreaming body and the full recall of astral travels?
All right, so there's two aspects here. There's sovereign orgasm and an unsovereign orgasm. An unsovereign orgasm is having some form of violence behind it, or whatever the multitude of other debauchery that people have come up with for over long periods of time.
Could even be important to define violence here. So this is going to take it to another level, but it's important to create this clarification. So when we speak of violence, that can be seen or termed in many different ways for people. But there are even practices within sexuality to help to move energy where it may be stuck or displaced in one body part, where it needs to move another. So a lot in the Eastern traditions, they have a practice where they'll take, different size sticks, and or, when you do the type of massage where you're pounding, it's because you're really moving energy that's stagnant. Now, we're not talking about self-deprivation or beating of oneself, but actually slapping can open up energy.
Spanking.
All of that. So
sensual spanking.
Yes. We're not talking about violence obviously in the classic context, but it's understanding to deprogram ourselves that those things are negative or violent. We're not talking about pain. We're talking about using techniques to move energy in the body.
The next thing is it manipulative sex on the negative side? Now, the nature of the question is going into dream time.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a fully sovereign orgasmic process, it will enhance your astral travels 10,000-fold and your ability to recall.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to touch again on that unsovereign side. So many people, because of cultural taboos, pornography, the way social media is trading images around, get these fantasies that one week this fantasy works, the next week it doesn't. And they have to find something that turns them on. And if you're regularly doing that, what turns me on today, you are still in an instant gratification sexual process. And that's an unsovereign process because you're not truly exploring yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, so many people in this modern world get exposed to, let's say, a porn video that shows some violent stuff, spanking, doing things that are really nasty, disrespectful things. I don't need to get graphic here.
It's just the
disrespect,
breaking of the divine masculine and divine feminine,
right.
More so on the divine feminine aspects.
So if those are part of your regular process when nothing else is working, you have to truly understand that when you fall back to those, you are tremendously lowering your frequency and using your sexuality as the engine to keep you asleep. Now, if you are in those process and decide to work with dragons, they aren't going to be dragons ultimately. They're going to be posers, things that pretend to be because you're consciously lowering your frequency.
And they will feed off of you as well.
And your family members too. Mm-hmm. Now, let's go back to the positive side, where you're truly having those intense experiences with a partner or with not. At the end, as you're beginning to fall asleep, a lot of people with orgasm fall asleep really fast. Mm-hmm. And there are others that an hour later, they're still awake, but they're in that lucid state. This is where you have to have inner martial arts discipline to allow the euphoria, but to engage that guided imagery. And this is where technology in the modern world, simple hit of a button can play a pre-recorded experience that is your own personal guided meditation to expand your awareness infinitely into all directions so that the orgasm now becomes ethereal as well as physical. Mm-hmm. There you can take that energy into your dream sleep, such as creating a guided imagery that takes you to your castle that has great protections, that has your dragon guide at the top, waiting for you post-orgasm, high frequency to come and engage it to learn the celestial alphabet of 1,000,000 letters.
And one aspect there is just to touch on the sexuality, the sexual energy is, let's say, one finger on the hand of creative energy. It's just one finger on the hand of creative energy. And so part of what we do as healers is we learn also to use the orgasmic energy, obviously not in the moment with a client. This is where we transform the sexual energy. It could be seen as baby food, so that we could use it as actual chi. We can store it and channel it as chi for healing purposes.
Now, when you're in a bonded partnership relationship where you can do this regularly for each other, if it ends up being one way all the time, there's something wrong there. Now, when the partner has an intense orgasm, the other one who's knowing that was super intense for them, I now need to alchemize and send some of my powerful post-orgasmic sexual energy as a healing process for them. Let's clear out those kidneys. Let's clear out the lungs. Let's bring some beauty to you and allow the romance language to be the medium in which you transmute and transform the sexual energy into a healing aspect.
You can speak directly into the organs. You can send your sound frequency intention directly into the organs. And if you remember what we said before, we don't want to be too graphic, but if you understand the makeup of a dragon, now it has spines that come out of his back. They have they can have sexual organs in each of their chakras. You could also work with visualizing those different chakras opening and having the sexual organs. Something that came to mind that was quite comical when we talk about dragons and sexuality, because they're highly attracted to raw creation. It could be a great idea to, let's say, paint a dragon on your partner, on a body part, on some body part. Things like that, can be incorporated to really start to manifest the energy into this density.
Now, a lot of people like to talk about riding dragons, and that's where you're taking this imagery and bonding with a dragon. As you begin to explore your consciousness as a consciousness explorer and learn that self-pleasuring or sexual acts with a partner can create a whole new level of experience where the partner can get you on to ride the dragon. Literally. That your post-orgasm doesn't have the sexual energy, but you're taking that raw creativity. Now, a lot of times when partners are together, there's a huge volume of creativity to keep it enlightened for themselves so it doesn't get boring and repetitious. So if you are willing to explore, willing to allow your sexuality to have guided imagery, to have romance, to have a variety of other things that will challenge your cultural taboos and a variety of other things, you will begin to have consciousness explorers experiences pre-orgasm, post-orgasm, so on and so forth, until such a moment you're like, whoa, this is totally different. Now, one more thing to touch on is sensuality, which is completely different than sexuality. One person, male or female, can have a full orgasm without touch.
Many people who practice yoga and different breathing techniques can have a full orgasm without any sexual interaction. It becomes a natural byproduct of that.
Right. And as a researcher, if you want to go out and look there, we'll provide some things in the post-chat room that comes with the product, some places that you can go and look.
Yes.
Montauk Chia is one, a variety of others, the Tantra practices that are out there. Now, sensuality is just as much important as sexuality. And one must make a fine delineation of a sensual touch that has no sexual energy behind it, because that's the healer.
It's healing, and it's also affording people who have a misunderstanding that sensual touch means sexuality. That is a great misunderstanding, because oftentimes as healers, or as all of our audiences as practitioners who come with good intentions of love, we sometimes have the capacity just to hug someone and they feel so much love, they confuse it for sexuality, because the only way that they've experienced love has been through their sexuality, and that's a whole nother strata and demographic of persons as it concerns their perceptions and misperceptions of sexuality.
So a lot of people who have had trauma sexual, whether it's sexual abuse or verbal abuse during those processes, lose their sensuality. Now I touch on this if you're going to go down this route of using guided imagery, you must absolutely embrace sensuality before the sexual release. Now, I'm bringing it up here now because we wanted to get the juicy, the raunchy stuff out before we went and did a guided meditation. This guided meditation is a sensual activation of the body without a sexual experience. It is meant to bring frequency and vibration to the body that can bring an intense euphoric feeling that has dopamine and orgasmic energy. Now, a lot of people who have done the invocations, revocations, have had intense experiences, such as the consciousness strike, the divine masculine, divine feminine. It makes people cry. That is also a sensual act, as a gift to yourself when you're allowing those tears through. Now, I'm going to seriously turn up the frequency. For those that are regular listeners, you know what that means. Put on your seatbelts. For those that are new listeners, what I'm doing is not just bringing dragon energy through. I am raising myself to meet the highest frequency, positive energy being that's a part of the great collective here, and to emanate out through this 26-letter encoded alphabet, the 1 million letter alphabet of the celestial mind.
I have it here for you.
Okay, I'm going to do...
Is that the dragon meditation?
No, I want to do the revocation first.
Okay. Okay.
We have 14 minutes. So yeah, we'll get through it. I may go a minute or two over. All right. Sit.
Everybody, center yourselves. Call in your I am presences to merge with you in enacting 100% sovereignty of your being. Create your spiritual cord of equity. And before we do this, we're going to see the globe and see the South Pole and North Pole Aurora Borealis. There's huge portals for the dragons to come in as covering the globe, and we are all here within this one globe, connected by all these colors and intentions as we begin this meditation, the invocation.
Now, I advise you to have some tissues ready. Many will cry, some will not. But allow yourself the sensual experience of these words. That does not have a sexual energy behind it. So euphoria is a part of your great awakening here. Dragon revocation invocation. I call to my celestial medicine spread.
Robert needs to reboot his
Okay.
computer.
All right. So I think we need to take a break.
Before the invocation.
All right. So Robert, can you type in what's going on here?
Okay.
Okay, so he's going to go on break. All right, so just scroll that up. All right, everyone, so we're going to take a quick break. We're having a little issues with the background producers, and when we come back, we'll do the Dragon Revocation Invocation. Those damn gremlins out there. Scroll. All right, everyone, we are live with a delay, technically. Live delay, technically alive. All right, now that the gremlins are cleared, we're gonna do the dragon revocation invocation. Everyone get ready, sit back, relax, listen to Eleanor's previous words, and remind you to allow. Dragon revocation invocation. I call to my sacred celestial medicine spread. I call to my dragon guides, those who have been with me since the dawn of all of my eternal births. I call to my Earth Mother, who holds celestial medicine space for my sacred dream of dreaming. Aho, Mother of all dragon kind of our time-spaced equation, I ask you to come and sit in elder council with the communal I am precognitive workforce. Aho, dragon kind that is in service to the fifth and sixth worlds of universal peace, come sit in sacred fire with all of our I am selves in service to the fifth and sixth worlds of peace. I speak to the spirit of the peacemaker's fire. Aho, friend fire. I ask you to carry my prayer words to the seven directions of life flow. Aho, friend crow, guardian of sacred universal law. Sit with us and co-create this message of universal ceremonial peace. Aho, my spirit friends, I honor you in these moments of moments with these words of unity. The time is now, and the power is in the internal, external, self-honesty of peace. We, the living beings of the manifest now, bear the responsibility of acting in the now. We each have an inner responsibility of self-exploration, self-reflection, and self-honesty that defeat habit patterns that create false illumination. Your dragon kind are here to be teachers at new layers and new levels of reflection, helping us to pull back the membranes of cooperative separation, creating the duality we perceive and believe in. I break all contracts, vows, and agreements with the previous generation's definition of dragons. I break the myths in every time stream, galaxy, and universe I exist on. For the expressed purpose of knowing dragons this lifetime, without other lifetimes interfering with what is in potential, just for me during this great dream time awakening. I call to my perception that subtly uses the global narrative as myth. I now deconstruct the myth of the global narrative and how it uses dragons as an enlightenment trap from times of the past, making our perception that we are not worthy for our ancestors walk with dragons in the physical manifest. I now bring back the sacred, neutral, innocent point of view of my perception and perspective of dragons and how they interact with all species kind during the great Dreamtime awakening. I now enter the global Dreamtime grid within Earth's north and south poles. I use the northern and southern aurora borealis as my Dreamtime hub of interconnectivity with the 10,000 past generations and the 10,000 future generations. I summon my dragon celestial spirit guide who has been with me since the dawn of all of my eternal births within Earth Mother's space of spaces. So I may drive forward the Dreamtime hologram of my great Dreamtime awakening into self-mastery of my holographic time-space equation as a soul and a soul family within the galactic ascension machine. Robert, we're getting echo from you. I create a dreamer's handbook for all sentient dreaming kind to connect from their inner dragon teachers. Today is the day we all walk out of our global narrative and buy into our species legacy, hidden within race amnesia. It will be our dragon teachers who sit with us in elder council, training the trainers of the 1 million letter celestial alphabet, so we are no longer chained to a limitation of our expression in natural languages passed down throughout our history. We become now the unvanquished dream of peace. I set down ceremonial roots with my dragon familiar kind. We have become the friend of friends while on the journey to the unlimited point of view. and now the unlimited 0 point of experience. Today, in no time, I co-create my masterful manifestation of vision, for my vision of my spirit and its relations to dragonkind, our mediums to the celestial alphabet, our teachers and way showers of light, sound, vibration. For every sacred breath I take, I give prayers to the ancients, past, present, and future, for they hold the mantle of responsibility of being ancient. Aho, unseen ancients who have walked this path before, we see your trail markings, telling us the path is not broken, the way is clear. Aho, ancient ones who walk the stars and beyond. Today I set down roots with the celestial traveling guide. I am honored with this dragon to ride with me. We ride to the stars and beyond, to the places not mapped, not seen by awareness-based beings. Aho, my bonded dragon, we met in the fetus of our great mother's eternal womb. We travel the dreamtime streams of consciousness awareness. In dreamtime we ride to find the unlimited point of view as masterful manifestors of the dream weave. Aho, dragons of the eternal struggle of awareness of all that is, was, or ever will be. Tonight we ride to the ends of the universe as superluminal time-space transversing beings of peace. We are the peacemakers and peacekeepers, riding the waves of time-space, spreading the message. We are creating it all. I call to my celestial guides, the dragons of Alcanor. Come hold sacred space, celestial median council of oneness. Sit with us in elder council as peacemakers and peacekeepers as we finish the process of karma while accepting our dharmic path of masterful outcreation of the repetition that yields no illumination in karmic resolution. We bonded with our celestial guardians to break away from the false hologram of light and become the dragon riders of Earth Mother's realm, unchained from our global narrative of limitation, unbound from our ideologies of sacrifice and martyrdom. Our service is not in sacrifice. It is with joyful, bounding strides we take on this awesome responsibility of being mediums to time. I choose to clear myself deeper than I ever have before. I call to Mother Ayahuasca to come hold sacred cleansing space. I call to Grandfather San Pedro to hold sacred grandfather space for celestial medium rebirth and to higher frequency beingness. I call to the brother and sister plant communities holding sacred medicine dream space at Earth's concrete jungles. Come hold modern sacred space with our prayers of ending the eternal struggle. We all become peacekeepers and peacemakers by sitting in elder council of the self. Here in the temple of the I Am, we evolve the very meaning of life. We accept our multidimensional thinking as our legacy and birthright. We accept our roles as source-connected beings on the path to celestial mediumship. Aho, my bonded dragon, I ride into the dreamtime oceans afar. Ready your wings, flex your muscles, do your dragon yoga, so we may breathe the fire of creation to those still held in the iron grip of mediocrity. Aho, my dragon brothers and sisters, this dreamtime eve, we ride the 7 directions of all that is, was, and ever will be. Through the sea of consciousness, into the oceans of awareness, to the eye of the universe, we ride into the realms of other sources to bring the message of the peacemakers and peacekeepers to the auntie and uncle sources, our sources' ancestors who hold sacred space for our source. Aho, brother and sister sources beyond the veil of our light, our source's light. We ride into ever after to greet you as source-connected ancestors on the path of peace, spreading the word. We are creating it all. Aho, grandfather source and grandmother source, we greet you with the time-honored blessings of source-connected knowingness of all that is, was, and ever will be. We bring to you the gifts of the sacred pipe of peace. We bring to you our grandmother Earth's sacred shawl of clan mothers. In honor of your holding sacred space for your children of the sources. Aho, great-grandfather storyteller source, we bring you the gifts of spirit, our stories of victories and counting coups over self-defeating habits, over doubt of our divine source in nature, so you may teach the younger sources what courage is needed to face the void and out-create nothingness with the sheer joy of creation. Aho, grandfather storyteller source, tell us a story so we may bring back to Earth Mother's realms. Tell us your wisdom, great-grandfather storyteller source. Aho, children of Earth, of the great Dreamtime awakening. Let me tell you a story. Many eras of light ago came a dreamer, dreaming the great dream of peace. This was the first peacemaker of all peacemakers to come. He rode a dragon just like you. His dragon name was Jakoren. The peacemakers honors no other name for himself other than peacemaker. He spoke of times to come when celestial sources would be at odds with each other, and their children would fight over the meaningless control of infinite space. He told stories of a special race of beings who held the title of the unvanquished dream, the Invictus. These dreamers, dreaming the great dream of peace throughout all time space, each was source connected and interconnected with all other sources of peace. The peacemaker came from the realms of the unvanquished dream of universal peace. He traveled beyond the galaxies and stars through the universal portals yet in creation. He rode his dragon to bring the message of peace to all that is, was, or ever will be, and all sources that hold space for your source-connected beings of awareness, swimming through the sea of universal consciousness. I see you, this very essence, rebirthed into this new creation, reincarnated to repeat the message of peace. Now there is eternal illumination present in these ever-present moments. I honor you, peacemaker of all peacekeepers to come. You are truly the unvanquished dream of peace, reminding us all we are creating it all. Grandfather storyteller source comes closer to the sacred fire, peering into our infinite existence. He blends his interconnectedness with all that is, was, or ever will be. He says to you, children of Earth, you are the unvanquished dream of peace. We honor you in all the halls of the Akashic records, teaching other celestial minds what courage is needed to face the void of misperception of all that is, was, or ever will be. Aho, peacemaker, unvanquished great dreamer of peace. We shall tell stories of your journeys to the stars and beyond. They will reach those on the path of race amnesia and into a knowingness profound and healing. Oh, children of Earth, you are our legacy of future founded and grounded in peace. We ask you to bring love and joy and perfect harmony in order to reach fifth density of awareness, to meet and greet our dragon teachers and spirit guides. Allow that peace in. Powerful energies flowing through you from this dragon revocation invitation. Your tears feeling and empathing all of you that are out there. Come back into your beingness. Come back into your unity. I am the ever-present being born today, in this unique signature frequency, birthing my new conscious, birthing my third grade grammar innocence that I allow in my ever-present genius. I allow my ever-present genius to be present when the dragons are here. My third grade teacher is the dragon. It arrives to teach me my reading class, so may learn to read and speak the language, this infinite language of the celestial minds. I allow my central nervous system to expand its potency, to connect to every vertebrae within my spinal column, to add to this greater potential processing power of the 1 million letter alphabet language that is the celestial mind. I'm on the path to be a celestial medium, to understand the frequencies and emanations and minds and thoughts and the dreams of the celestial world, how to work with its children, how to nurture great and vast understandings amongst its surface, subsurface, and astral communities. I dream deeply of this responsibility, for I know I am a being born here in my specific signature frequency that a dragon was linked to. This dragon is my medium, imprinted in my fetus in mother's womb, to be my communicator, my teacher, so I step up on the celestial mantle of responsibility and become a teacher to the stars and beyond, to be the great traveler, greeted by other species, to spread my energetic wings wide as I soar between the spaces of galaxies and universes, looking for the undiscovered country of the great universe and beyond, the multiverse. I have dragon DNA in me, which are my memories, memories of a whole different era of connection. I allow those memories to have relevance through the haze of race amnesia. I allow my greater innocence to emerge today, so I look bright-eyed from my classroom of young, innocent third-graders, saying, I'm ready to learn. Teach me the grammar of the celestial mind, dragon kind. Today, I open my heart to uncode and unpack the high-frequency celestial wisdom. I unpack it into my signature frequency of the now. I allow my superluminal processing to create a manifestation of knowingness. I pack up the celestial frequency and I give it back to the celestial mind, saying thank you for this celestial gift of knowledge and wisdom. Now, teacher, dragon, help me refine these words so I may understand them in my mind speak, my language, so I may transmute, translate, transform, and transcend language itself through interconnectedness and potency of psychic emanation through these words, artworks, musics, to have the emanation of the celestial codes, the very essence and imprint and vibratory harmonic that is a part of my ever-present language, body language, form of communication, my very emanation from to my central nervous system now. It acknowledges the imprint of the dragon upon each and every one of my eternal births as a part of the universal makeup and architecture and legacy that we all have. When we choose to have the next scale of awareness, the next form of awareness that allows us to implicitly and implicitly live within this place of beings of love and co-creativity on the path and journey to discover the undiscovered country within our own dream space, to be joyful, happy students on the path to greater awareness. I now allow this innocence to have space and relevance to grow. For the next time I go to have this dragon energy and facilities that I have created and discerned as real, my focus is to be the third grade student saying, teacher, teach me to read and write the celestial language of the million letter alphabet, so I may transmute, transcend, and transform and translate the third density emanations that create the vibratory harmonic match of founding my own celestial frequency and teacher in my own way. We honor these gifts of energy. We bring them into our heart, unwrapped and ready to play in the sandbox of life. For here be dragons. Powerful energies emanating now. So why don't we just take a little bit of a break, just tiny, everyone come back. And we're gonna go and answer questions from the chat room. What, you can probably unplug that. It actually has enough power for now.
Yeah, sure. And our wonderful staff, Michael, has been
Curating
Curating
questions.
the questions.
Now, if you have any comments on that dragon revocation, invocation, who was emotional, who wasn't, who found a little vision within it. Now, the PDFs will be available once the replay is done. We purposely did not put these in here because we wanted you to experience them for what they are as a presentation. So when you go to do them, there's an authentic interior reality expression within them.
We have a lot of questions here, and we have really, really good questions. So it may be an idea. We want to honor everyone's questions here. We can obviously, for time's sakes, only answer a few, but we will get to answering all of these questions. Yeah.
Once the webinar is done, we will go through, and as the live chat grows, there will be the post chat that's open that will answer a lot more questions.
Yes.
So everyone, and I'll add something else. A lot of people ask the same question too, just in a different way.
Mm-hmm. All right. So this question has come up a few times. Let's just start with: can you address dragons and the Mayans or Native American culture?
So we'll specifically go to the Mayans first.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Native Americans had thunderbirds and a variety of other things, but the Mayans had the feathered serpent, which is a dragon. Quetzalcoatl, Viracocha, they all came from technological spaceships, but they were holographic manipulating beings. They were not dragons. They were off-world beings pretending to be gods on the path to be the vanquished dream, to vanquish us as a dream of peace, as our own natural co-creative evolution. Now, our modern terminology calls them reptilians, Dracos, but they were far more than that.
This, I'm going to let you freeze there. This ties into the second question to elaborate. Many people believe that dragons are the same as reptilians, such as the Draco. Can you set the record straight about this and also describe how dragons and Dracos and other negative reptiles view each other? So it's a
there's an intense competition between them, and one of the reasons the Draco reptilian concept is here in our modern global narrative is because they're trying to change the very relationship of what dragons are. Because if they can get into our colloquial now in history that dragons are related to them, you aren't going to turn to them as a celestial alphabet teacher, are you? You're not going to turn to them for any form of inspiration because the global narrative has been tainted and poisoned with a venom of violence.
And this does relate back to two questions here about dragons, timeline assassination. Okay, and one thing we didn't touch on, just to expand on this point because it's extremely relevant. I want everybody out there, if you have not already heard about or researched the Mandela effect, the Mandela effect ties in very much to what is going on now with the changing of timelines, time wars, and it relates back to the dragons. So we can touch on that to illuminate everyone out there. I have to acknowledge our mentorship student and our business partner, Chris Anatra, for actually showing me some prime examples of this, and I was really taken aback. And then within the last 2 months, I have personally experienced the Mandela effect by going to watch a particular song that is a music video. It has an image. It's an old song. It's about 20-something years old. So they have an image and they have the song on YouTube. Now I know by heart the name of that song. The name of that song a couple of weeks ago when I went to view it has changed.
Literally. Now this is known as bleed through. Now a lot of what's going on with the Mandela effect is actually an intentional change and not just a normal bleed through. Because we've experienced so many forms of timeline assassination for personalities on one time and no longer exist on another, or entire lineages being removed from the fullness of expression. So the Mandela effect says something's been changed, and yet we recognize the change. Now, dragons oftentimes try to bring positive Mandela effects through, where somebody may have passed on another timeline, but they had a powerful one-liner. that comes through on another timeline, in which that person doesn't remember them ever saying it. Dragons and the Mandela effect go hand in hand because of the time travel issues that we're going through. Part of the Great Dreamtime Awakening is to stop technological time traveling from manipulating conscious exploring time traveling, which is our birthright and legacy. Dragons are here to remind us through the Mandela effect, technological time travel is very dangerous, and those that are running it right now don't have the mantle of responsibility or the inner knowingness to be able to do it. So a lot of things people experience are direct actions of both positive and negative forms of time travel. And when it comes to the dragons and the Mandela effect, they are purposely trying to throw a wrench into the system's plans to stop being able to predict the prediction process. The system has a massive prediction model that's trying to figure out what you're going to do next day, next month, next year. Earlier in the webinar, I said that they can only predict a few hours ahead of us. 5 years ago, they went 7 to 10 years ahead of time. Now, when the Mandela effect comes in, it literally changes something in the wrinkle of time. And they can't unlearn, people can't unlearn things. They can't unsee things. Now, one of my personal Mandela effects was Berenstein versus Berenstain Bears. Okay? How many knew that? Or the FedEx logo.
You can research it.
Okay.
The name of the Berenstein book has actually changed spelling along with a lot of corporations, signs, logos. If you have something physical from previously that's printed that's not electronic, you can see the clear evidence of the Mandela effect.
Now, dragons are trying to purposely manipulate for a positive that more and more parts of the reality break down and we begin to question the global narrative. That is ultimately the biggest architectural strategy of defeat that can be done. If you remember it this way and I remember it this way, and we debate and go, it is both. How could it be both? Oh, system, you have gilded us at the altar for the last time, lying to us in one reality and not lying to us in another. Having the Mandela effect here now is a very positive thing. That is, something is changing in the very fabric and nature of reality. And because dragons are reality programmers at the most highest of levels with high amounts of strategy, when a Mandela effect goes viral on a Facebook post or this or that or whatever it is there as actually a punch in the system's kidneys, literally, meant to cause extending harm to its ability to predict anything. Because one little person who goes, I remembered it this way and it isn't, which begins a process of consciousness exploration, which opens them up to all new areas of exploration, personal reflection, as well as this reality really isn't real, is it? Because it's not about what you think, it's what you believe in. If suddenly something that you believed in has a fundamental alphabetical change to it, what do you think? What do you do when something so grand and fundamental has changed and you remember it another way? For the next aspect of the Mandela effect might actually be that instead of Apollo 11 was the last one, there could be Apollo 27. 16 more. What if that were to suddenly come into the global narrative? How would it survive? Who challenges the global narrative? No one. It is there simply to challenge all of your belief engines and systems to not create something more than the global narrative. So having the Mandela effect with dragons as a part of it is a very positive thing. Now vice versa, on the negative side of Mandela is confusion. Like Berenstein versus Berenstain.
Or giving it drama. So with anything like this, I've experienced several times persons who experience hard evidence of something mystical or doesn't match the reality rules as we're told. And even though they say seeing is believing, what our brain does, it creates a distortion filter. It cannot accept that this is actually happening, or they can experience it and then delete it out of their conscious mind. So then they have no memory of actually experiencing it. The thing with these phenomena as they become more and more, especially as it relates to, we have a question here about when are we going to see physical dragons, all right? When it relates to physical manifestations, so oftentimes, yes, you can see them They may take form using clouds, but you feel the energy. Or for me personally, I start to see them as pulses of light that come into the room. But it is to take the drama out of it, and like I can't believe this, to take those words and those thought constructs, because you deconstruct the experience with I can't believe this, this can't be real. Yes, it's real, it's to be humble, and it's to be proud in the same moment that you're having the experience, and take all the charge of drama out of it.
Taking that charge and drama is a key technique to consciousness exploration, because you could be on a journey and somebody gives you something you just can't handle. And then what? You go back to your body, or you debate and argue over there. And that's something one must continuous learn. If something's trying to engage you in a battle space of debate and argument, and you've already lost. You've already lost what? Your point of view that's unlimited, that's saying, I must go into this person's story. Lao Tzu has said, once you fall into the trap of another person's story, you are forever in their prison.
Let that ring in.
Let that ring in. Forever in their prison.
We're in the story of the global narrative, and so they think.
Until we outcreate their story. Their story can only produce a few hours ahead of us now. We are all within one viral post, one viral video. Look at this, cat videos that get 20 million hits in an hour. Why do cat videos get 20 million hits? We're all one document of writing away, one webinar, one thing away that can challenge the global narrative at such a potency and strength that we all go, hey, we all accept an authentic truth of this global narrative change, or we're simply going to outcreate you because you are the old. And we may have to throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to the global narrative, because 99% of what we know in our archaeology is garbage. Garbage. And I know Eleanor doesn't like that garbage word, and I use that for a reason. It is garbage. They are lying to you, and we're believing it. In the 1920s, they said it was this way, but in the 1880s, all the newspapers had mummies in Illinois and the giants that were there. We find it in our modern history. They can't erase every newspaper. They tried. That level of manipulation is going to come to a crashing end. And that's what a lot of people are waiting for. CNN, MSNBC, BBC, to tell us the truth. In reality, it's not going to happen. The global narrative needs its global media machine to support it. And when we stop using the global media machine as the machine of dispensing our race history,
we go from CNN to CIM.
CIM, exactly. Powerful questions.
So related into this, it's a really good question. It's a follow-on from the previous question, and I'm actually personally very intrigued because I have my unique perspective on this. Not much is written about the Dragon Mystery Schools. Can you please tell us how to be accepted as a Dragon's apprentice and join Dragon's Mystery School? That is what this webinar is. And from my perspective, before Andrew speaks, I would ask each and every one of you out there to formulate your own inner mystery school with all aspects of yourself. We do not need to seek formal institutions as we have been taught. We need to seek deep within and create our being as its own mystery school. We can come together and share. And when you talk about mystery schools and dragons, it ties in because mystery schools are all about time travel as well.
Now, those formal mystery schools, I will slightly edit here because there's a level of answer that can be highly weaponized or taken the wrong way. Formal mystery schools are both light and dark simultaneously. If you knowingly go into a light and dark simultaneously, you will inevitably have the darkest part of your light. A true mystery school has no light or dark within it. It is all emanation teaching based. If you're emanating low frequency, you know it. If you're emanating high frequency, you know it. This is what Eleanor has said. Go into yourself. You need no formal mystery school training to become a student of the dragon. You need the innocence of the third grade mind that says, teacher, I need to learn to graft my paragraph. I need to learn the million adjectives. I need to learn these things so I can structure my language and manifestations with such strength that it can come out as a manifestation that changes my holographic reality. In that 1 million letter alphabet is the ability to change your reality with just words. Just words.
I want to have an add-on there. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. On this topic, there's something that's been evolving for us, and it's very relevant to this conversation. So, from my perspective, there is a great emergence right now of, let's say, the plant medicines. I would say if you're looking, I mean, you can always, you can research, you can, create systems and certainly share with us. We're always open for, conversation on these things. We would say what we were providing you with here in this webinar, the following PDFs, etc., are the foundations that you need. You would have to practice with these for a good, I would say, 5 years before you really, really start to have, intense, strong experiences with the dragons. It's not instant gratification. You can start to have experiences, but you've got to commit to your own self-love, emanations of joy. But we are in a unique situation. We have met some unique people who are creating some structures to make plant medicine a much bigger part of the global experience and narrative. And I would say, metaphorically or literally, if you are looking for a mystery school in these times to really experience dragons, I would say that if you go into the intentions of seasoned ayahuasca journeys, San Pedro, mushrooms, and do your invocations and make the intention to communicate with the dragons, any form of sacred DMT with a high level of ceremony behind it is going to afford you a huge opportunity to have a schooling moment with the dragons.
That has no price other than your personal investment into the sacredicity, commitment and courage to be sacred, and the follow through to use the medicine for medicine's purpose and not a recreational purpose. Many, many people have been at ayahuasca or San Pedro and have experienced the Great Mother in a variety of formats. Iboga. Now, when you go on more advanced journeys where it's not about the purging and you've done the tremendous amount of clearings that ayahuasca asks you to do to experience the great love, and you've changed your inner way and vision of love, the very nature of your question is, how do I become a dragon mystery school? You already are. You are in the DNA skin suit that is 10,000 times better than any other skin suit that's in competition here. Every one of the species that is out there, even the Dracos, want our skin suit. Why? Because it's a 7-color and up to a 20-color experiencing skin suit. We've just passed the Galactic New Year in what's called 8th color of time. Think, an 8th color. Many people on the ayahuasca or medicine journey see a brand new color. That brand new color expands your ability to perceive, receive, and understand. So it'll be through the self-initiation. Now, Eleanor mentioned 5 years, and I can feel people in the background's egos popping. If you don't spend that time, 5 years, and chronicling it.
Time is, they don't deal with time, they deal with raising of frequency.
And your ability to maintain it over long periods of time.
You also have, you have to earn the respect to work with them. This is, our perception of time is very different, and it can still be a very joyful process. And I say that this is not any form of limitation to anyone out there. It is simply within the knowingness of how our perception of time works. One of the other reasons that dragons love to work with us, and something to add on how incredible of an opportunity we have. So we have this DNA skin suit that allows us to perceive an 8th color of time. It allows us to perceive time in a different way. Additionally, I really would love everyone out there to really hold this statement in their heart and understand what the magnitude of this means. We here on Earth, in these DNA skin suits, have something very unique, which is we have 100% free will sovereignty.
Yeah,
100% free willed sovereignty. What that means is that we have something that a lot of beings out there in the universe, dimensionally, etc., do not have. We have the ability to claim 100% what we want to create and co-create. And that is extreme power.
that can be abused. And that is why we have dragons, and as part of our eternal birth process, to be on the path of the celestial mediumship. These DNA skin suits that we're in now are the mediums in which we will travel to the stars and beyond and teach other beings how to be source connected, how to be 100% sovereign free will. Now, as a metaphor, other worlds that don't have 100% sovereignty have 75%. Just try to contemplate for a little bit. What's 75% sovereignty? What's 90% sovereignty? What's 2% sovereignty? Each celestial mind, as a teacher spirit, is there to help people go through the eye of the needle of the firestorm of perception. At times, a stream of light is very young, but it's still an infinite stream of light that's very old. And it creates a variety of offspring, I ams, that will go in spirits multiple things in multiple simultaneous existences so it can rapidly age, not in a linear time, but in an experiential based. This is the key to understanding. Everything here is experiential based. And when your base of experience is vast, each I am that's born has a chance to be even more vast, to challenge what was before to be a whole new envelope of expression, so that the experiential based reality through these DNA mediums of skin suit experience can have so much more than many others. Now, I said before, think of what 75% sovereignty is. Really, really think. Now, we can give a metaphor here. The average person in mediocrity right now on our world that is stuck in a slave job, that has no spirituality, and likes sports bars and hitting on women or vice versa, we have about 17 to 19% sovereignty.
Because in the unawareness, what is in the unseen that is interacting with you.
And you give it tacit consent in your unawareness to do whatever the hell it wants. And at 75% sovereignty, it is allowing other celestial minds to come in and create avenues of change without your fullness of choice in it. This is why war spread to so many celestial worlds so fast. And in the line in the Dragon Revocation and Invocation is celestial minds would be at odds as their children fought over control of the meaningless control of infinite space. We all, on this world, have an infinite reality available to us. Do we believe in it, though? Does the global narrative even give you the potential? That is our sovereign limitation now, as part of the Great Dreamtime Awakeners and Wakened, to challenge that global narrative to no longer have relevance in your belief engines. I hope.
Okay. So I love this question, because I do remember as a child being given a book on dragons, and it had all these images of dragons, you know, sort of coveting jewels and precious objects. So here we go, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Often dragons are pictured with a jewel embedded in its forehead, or a pearl being source of dragon's super magical powers. The ones that were able to retrieve it from a dead dragon were able to gain the power for themselves. What kind of technology do these jewels represent?
I am going to have a very different answer for you. That is myth. Created by sorcerers trying to gain power, or something known as the stones of power, a philosopher's stone.
They keep you looking outside instead of within. So when we think of let's do a play on words. Let's take a treasure chest, okay? The treasure is in our chest. It is in our hearts. All these myths have been created to keep us distracted. Now, that's not to say we, work with crystals. We work with crystals, precious jewels, semi-precious jewels. We work with them with the technology of our hearts. But these myths are created to keep us out of our true power and out of true communion and communication and equal co-creation with these dragons.
Now, the metaphor of the crystal and people going to take it for power is stealing the dragon's energy and making it a servitude to you. A lot of magical practitioners post-Atlantean area, where you had the variety of those that we're going to need to name any of them, they would go to a place where an energy dragon was embedded into a mountain. As an example, a dragon who wants to go and sit in a particular place because part of their transmuting powers, when they become energy and they go embed themselves in a mountain, they create minerals and crystals and all sorts of other things. And there are ways to connect in a sacred way to the mountain to get control of the dragon in a positive way or a negative way, where you took the crystal as the form of taking the power, because the dragon's creating gold, silver, diamonds, and all sorts of other things. And if you're able to take the essence of the dragon and bring it to your land so it produces the underground commodities for you, then you're in that great benefit. Now, as I said, most of that is myth, large amounts. There are dragons who have crystals embedded inside them on other worlds. This has somehow come into our global myth. And it's very important that we begin to just deconstruct the global myth on dragons itself. Because we all want our own sovereign interpersonal relationship without the imprints of the past defining how we even think.
It's created to keep us away from that connection.
We keep it as context, not full truth. Context, so our ultimate, authentic, internal, discerning reality can go, that context worked for a few weeks until I learned this, but it didn't change my belief engine.
Right. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Now, I think this question is very important because we still come back to, really understanding dragons as celestial mediums and not referencing them as we would reference another human. So, here's this question. Okay. When a dragon egg hatches related to our hologram, what exactly happens? Can those beings be encoded into the DNA of a fetus in a womb already existing DNA skin suit? Because it ties into this other question. We exist in a hologram, within a hologram, etc. Dragons are aware of the hologram. So what is their function within and among the hologram, related to when an egg so-called hatches? I know it's a tricky one, but I think it's something that...
So a hologram inside a hologram that isn't real. So the egg is a portal from the real space, so a being can be birthed into unreal space to tell people in the unreal space, this is the unreal space, and the real space is over there. Now another aspect here is, why are they eggs? Dragons do not need eggs to bear their offspring. They're born by the celestial mind. Dragons do have offspring still related to the celestial mind. Once again, myth driving forward our belief in them. They need not physical bodies to procreate. Eggs represent the potential of the future generation. Now, there are a form of real dragon eggs in the outside reality of this hologram, which represents the infinite potentials. And the egg itself is its own galaxy or universe in which the being that's being born into it is a part of master collective of beings, no longer needing an individual birth through thousands of lifetimes from a celestial being, but to suddenly be born as a master collective. So that one egg represents tens of millions of beings, 10 eggs, tens of billions, 1,000 eggs, tens of trillions of beings in a single skin suit through manifestation here, such as somebody like Bruce Lee, Genghis Khan, had an entire master collective of billions of dragon energies, a part of his frequency, even as a normal DNA skin suit appearing being who had a masterful charisma energy because of the volume of energy. The dream, the egg, also represents the infinite dream. Me dreaming you, you dreaming me, the Earth Mother dreaming all of us. in our celestial galaxy, dreaming all of us, all of everything else in between, in the universe dreaming all of us, each holding sacred space for the dreamers dreaming the dream. And the egg represents the dreamers dreaming the dream, what it takes to manifest through dreaming the dream.
Thank you. So as a follow-on, here's another question that relates to that question. It was mentioned in a previous webinar that only 15 to 20% of the population has access to dragon's energy through the DNA lineage and ability to summon them. How do we determine if one has such a connection through the DNA lineage? If one has such a connection, how can one jumpstart their DNA dragon memory?
Good question.
Yes.
So if you are in that 15 to 18%, first thing first, look at the artwork around you. Look at the music you go to. Look at the inspirations that you create. You have 25 dragon t-shirts that you cycle through all the time. Are they always in art? Are they always in your conversation? Are your friends telling you, shut up about dragons, I don't want to know it anymore? That's a good way to start. Second process is, well, I don't know anything about dragons. Who's in the great forgetting? And then you watch a webinar like this and wonder, do I have dragon DNA? Technically, everyone has a tiny little bit of dragon DNA. And that all it takes in this fake real world that we live in to be a signature frequency match for a great teacher to come to you. Now, for those that have that 15 to 18%, a huge volume, you have a whole different mantle of responsibility of the manifester. Meaning that the other dragons that are going to come to you are going to go, step up or shut the fuck up. Do your sacred practice or stop calling on us. Do your due diligence and stop asking for instant gratification questions. That's your challenge. If you know you got that in you, stop acting in mediocrity. Stop acting in instant gratification. Stop expecting them to give you all the answers without any hard work behind it.
Hard work and heart work.
Okay. Now it's challenging for people to hear me say that in such an intense tone. But if you are born that way, you don't get the easy button. You do not get the easy button. And as long as you think, expect, or want the easy button, you cannot hold that 15 to 18% of energy within you because you're wanting to do it the easy way. And you were born not to do it the easy way. You were born to do it the hard way during the Great Dreamtime Awakening because thousands of other lifetimes you used the easy button with your dragon energy over and over and over again. The vast majority of people that have that high volume of dragon DNA, you are meant to be presenters, teachers, healers, great people that are publicly seen, not hermits with 19 cats putting posts on Facebook. Get over it. If you are truly believe your dragon energy, then you say, I need friends, community, companions, internal relationships with myself, external relationships with friends and family, a sexual and a sensual life. If those are all denying in you, you aren't worthy of that dragon energy you were born with. And the dragon's going to say, I won't be your teacher until you step up into the mantle of self-responsibility and self-heal, self-nurture, deal with your main issues, the top 5. And once those top 5 are done with, what are the next 5? It is an ever-evolving work on ourselves. And it's okay to take vacations from the self-transformation. When you come back, you have a whole new, unlimited point of view about yourself. One other aspect about that, those that have high dragon energy, some of you guys are egotistical because you have it. And you walk into a room and your dragon energy fills it up. If you are unable to truly control that energy, then the dragons that are going to work with you, even though you have real dragon energy, are there to feed off your real dragon energy so that they're mimicking and posing as real dragons looks better because they're taking your essence and your pheromones. You must truly be able to look into the heart of yourself and say, am I ready to accept that responsibility of having that dragon DNA and being a healer, a teacher, a master manifester with a sign that says open for business as teacher. I'm not a cat woman or a cat guy. I'm not a hermit, and I'm not a violent person. and I have a common moral code to do no harm. I can control rage. A Facebook post won't send me off because somebody said something to me. Your sovereign boundaries do not allow the energies of others to instantly change your belief system as a gullible idiot. There are so many posts right now or presenters out there that can change your belief system with a handful of words because you've given away your power to them. Your belief system should not be instantly changed by one other person's words, even me or what Eleanor says. It will be you that changes it with authentic interior reality. If an exterior input is so potent for you to change your system over instantly, then something's wrong with you. There's somebody asking, what about your revocations? They change people instantly. That's healing. That's reclaiming your power, creating rules, borders, policies, and procedures so authentically you can do due diligence over multiple days, weeks, months, and years to understand what the term living the mystical life daily means. Daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. I'm doing my practice until it is a natural process for me. And for those that have that real dragon energy, you must unfold, unpack, and uncode what it means to be a dragon over a year, not 5 days of instant gratification. I'm a dragon, blah, 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 blah. No, the real dragon's gonna look at you and go, what the hell's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Stop the instant gratification. I'm gonna continue to kick sand in your face until you go, I don't want no more sand in my face. Harsh answer, but people need to hear that now.
So how are we doing for time? Do we have time for just a quick question?
We got 10 minutes left.
Okay. So this is a question because it's in the global discussion right now. It's a yes or no answer. Do the fires in California and Oregon have anything to do with the Galactic New Year or dragons?
No.
Okay. This is also a yes or no. Did Alexander the Great have within him a solar dragon? What was Alexander the Great's true purpose related to the global narrative? Was this related to the largest wedding ceremony he performed, which many are not aware of? But let's just talk about, did he have a dragon, working with dragons?
You must understand what Alexander was and then what he was changed into because of time travel. Was he a solar dragon? Yes, but not from our star cluster. He was an import here that got through the assholes controlling the incarnation grid. He was also a timeline conqueror. So he didn't just conquer the Indus Valley, Persia, fight Xerxes and Darius and all those other people. His army was vast and actually traveled to other worlds, other timelines, forward and backwards in time, to conquer time itself. And he needed to have dragon energy behind him. So he had powerful charisma to convince his armies, who had virtually no education in the way the world really worked, to simply follow him throughout the histories of time, to suddenly see spaceships coming down and flying over their armies, and for them not to be afraid, because his potency of inner charisma was so powerful that they believed in him not as a god, but as a leader. It's the best answer I can give you about Alexander. A handful of other shows I talked about in Mystery Schools, a variety of others. One of the things that Genghis Khan did is also conquer linear time. The Roman Empire did conquer linear time, and that's why we have Roman numeral time, and not Genghis Khan time, or not Alexander time.
Great answer. Great question. Thank you. So, you told us that the solar dragons are birthed by a sun. Is there anything else important to understand about solar dragons and their purpose in our reality?
Charisma. Attracting of soul families, creating a brand new soul families. And there are things other than solar dragons, other celestial mysteries out there, such as quasars and pulsars. They all make dragons too, because they're celestial mediums and bodies too. Now, when it comes to solar dragons in our star clusters and great dream time awakening, it still comes down to charisma and comeliness, the beauty that you can create through your frequency. So charisma, 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 the ability to talk to mass amounts of people and influence them in such a way that you aren't stepping on their journey, but you're helping them to dissolve the old belief engine and create a true, authentic belief engine that uses the placebo belief-based reality engine that says what you think is not about what you think, it's what you believe in. And then finally to understand that the global narrative is forcing you to think and not believe until eventually thinking is believing. Solar Dragons are here for charisma and charisma's sake, to have such powerful teacher spirits out there that their very emanation and essence of a single word or a blink of their eye has enough truth behind it for you to go, he's got something. I don't know what it is yet, but there's something that there it says I must follow and not be a follower.
Thank you. There's a really good question that just came into the chat room. This is from Amanda. As a healing practitioner, I regularly call out for angelic support and guidance for healing clients. Mm-hmm. Would dragon energy be suitable for client healings?
Yes. Yes, it would. But you have to understand, if you're calling in a dragon plus all the other guides and guardians, dragons kind of can have their own ego and step on the guide who may know that person more and say that my way is better, or my way is better than you, the healer. Again, they see sovereignty different. If there is a person that you're healing who just doesn't want to get to their sexual trauma, and you call in a dragon, and it goes, pow, right to the sexual trauma, and you aren't ready for it, what's going to happen? You haven't done your due diligence to say, if I'm going to bring these dragons' energy, there has to be rules, borders, policy, and procedures that stop it from using its fullness of sovereignty and to become through and change everything that can radically alter and change a person's timeline. Mm-hmm. Vice versa, you have somebody with cancer and they're stage 4 and they're about to die. That's my last ditch effort. The same thing can happen. What if that person was meant to die? And they live another 15 years and watch their 2 children pass on. Okay? All that's in potential. So if you're going to bring a dragon in to heal, it's one you've already committed a relationship to. You've already done the due diligence for hundreds of hours and not randomly, oh, you're about to die, dragon, come in and heal. No. You truly have to put the time, effort, and energy if you're going to bring them in. Now, there are these general prayers that people use to bring in dragon guides. Here is where you have to make sure that prayer is a prayer and not a laser-focused adding of your core energy.
I think here, one of the things that we can assist the audience with is Andrew has taken some very, very special time. And this is directly from a collective of dragons that Andrew works with. We're using light language. We have some specific phrases. Mm-hmm. So there's, like, for example, we are going to provide these to the audience. And what I'm going to work on is Andrew's written in light language. I'm going to work on also including, in brackets, some enunciation so that we can have the enunciation and persons can feel very confident. Some people just flow into it and go with it. But let's just say one that says, a protection, an ancestral balancing phrase used by the dragons, a general use with background dragon energy in the lands, power lines, internet, seen and unseen worlds.
We, who, he, yakna walasan, we lasun, yi lasun, qui lasun, ret hak hata, qui na hata, na hata, mayez. Another one. Wagi, hagi, wadi uk hagye, wez hagi, ukla hagi, dak hagi, qui hagi, yehek soluna, hata yak nius, na rig hata, maghetatra, migatra, ukatra, az nilukak, mozi hatra, hizi hatra, ugi hatra. These phrases that we are presiding for you are the enunciation of the 1,000,000-letter alphabet. It isn't about the definitions. They are concepts at this point. Much like a Chinese character presents a concept that has all these other things behind it that amplify the very nature of what they are. Okay? Now, when we were first deciding if we were going to put the light language in here, we knew that some of these could be used in the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make sure that you are using these in the right way. That's why the phrases that I'm presenting here are to take from the material that is in Dragon Webinar 1, 2, and this one, and for you to apply it to yourself. So, kala, ashhala, yik, lasuna, uni qui no I, qui yak noto, fals, hi ulguzi, hi haknozi, laka agna, wi kuna ulaha, wak onkataya, ya. That is a dragon light language, or the celestial alphabet. Now, for those of you that have heard me do light languages on other shows, I can take 900,000 different light languages, which are all root languages, and essence them down to 26-letter alphabet. This is strictly a dragon light language, that you work with dragons. Now, there are thousands of other beings out there that know this dragon language too, and you can use it on a non-dragon scenario, but I would prefer to use the due diligence to stick and work with the dragon energy. It's why I included in this for those practitioners who really want to go down the path, really are going to do the due diligence, really going to follow through with the spiritual hygiene, really going to follow through with the prayer system for your healing yourself, truly going to go down that path. I'm providing these as PDF documents for those that want to use that truly for their magical interpersonal healing practice.
Okay. Well, I believe we're coming
Right
10 sharp, coming to the end. But there are one or two things we just wanted to remind you of out there, which is the Alchemy Tool Retreat that's coming up in LA in October.
October 8th. You can go to website andrewbartzis.com, and as well as go to mpa@galactichistorian.com and send an email there. Also, we have an Egypt trip coming up, September 7th to the 21st. That's 12 days on the Nile, 14 days total, going to every Egyptian pyramid and monument that's along the Nile, all back and room access, special access to the pyramids, to Dendara, to all sorts of things. You can also go to andrewbartzis.com. We have 2 spaces left for that trip. It is a small group. A total of only 14 maximum people can be on the journey. You'll have lots of personal time with me on a boat on the Nile. Generally, because of the heat, you go early to the different sacred sites, and then you come back and you're in the air conditioning. You get to experience all 5-star hotels, all included, all-inclusive price. So you don't pay for a cup of water from the moment you get off the airplane to the time that you go, fully all-inclusive. Eleanor and I are going to be there as part of your guides, getting into that galactic frequency, why Egypt meant so much to you. Now, this is the first time I'm doing a tour like this. I have done Egypt before, but in this particular frequency, it is about you and your interpersonal connections. So if you're interested in those last 2 seats, contact mpa@galactichistorian.com. Now, one more thing to bring up. We talked at the beginning of the webinar, the new business we're starting, Universal Citizens Healing System. It's going to be here in Barbados, as well as another one that will start in Connecticut in a short period of time. Now, we will be training the healers here, teaching people how to use special forms of technology that can assist the healing process.
The Universal Citizens Healers Academy, which is where Andrew is going to, for the first time, create formal schooling for practitioners and for clients of modalities that he's never handed down, and he wants to leave this as his legacy. And so we're really inviting everyone as well. When we will keep you updated with the information. But these are tools within the Universal Citizens Healers Academy that can transform your healing practice.
Now, something Universal Citizens Healing Academy is doing is offering compressed teaching, where you can go from 0-level healing skills, none at all, where you can learn massage 1, 2, 3, cranial sacral 1, 2, 3, and myofascial 1, 2, 3 in about 9 months. This is truly for the dedicated people.
Along with the Healers Academy.
Healers Academy. And this is not cheap because you're doing compressed teaching, and it is a long time. Normally that could take you 3 years to learn all 3 of those at the master level. We're now offering this a compressed process because we're at the time where those that want to step up and get out of mediocrity, get out of the situation they're in, and come out with not only incredible skill sets, but you will have a resume that can get you anywhere.
And also the skill sets that you don't burn out as a practitioner or take on what you don't want to take on. Those very, very important things.
Thank you everyone for being at this webinar. We look forward to doing more webinars coming to the future.
Thank you. Aho.
Aho.